the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here.
I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued. We feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence. I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of November 10th. Join us for the Hangar 2 ribbon cutting at the Kansas City Lee Summit Regional Airport on November 13th at 2 p.m., located at 2720 Northeast Hagen Road. Explore the impressive 46,000 square foot facility featuring aircraft storage, office space, first-class amenities for aviation customers, an observation deck, FBO operations, and the Summit Tech's Aerospace Academy. Looking for a fun night out with friends or someone special? Green Street is hosting Adult Night Out on Friday, November 14th at 7 p.m. Enjoy a step-by-step paint night with a non-alcoholic dirty soda bar. This event is for those 18 and older and is free to attend. Painting materials will be provided. Stay up to date with new events at greenstreetls.com. The city is seeking a systems analyst to drive the performance and reliability of its enterprise resource planning system. In this role, you'll plan, design, and deploy information systems that support city operations, ensure system stability, and optimize performance across networked software and associated systems. Apply today at lspeople.net. And a reminder, city facilities will be closed on Tuesday, November 11th for Veterans Day. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Keeping our city beautiful is a collaborative effort for all citizens. The City of Lee Summit supports these efforts with a set of guidelines or ordinances, and the city's neighborhood services team helps put those guidelines into practice. These guidelines ensure grass stays trimmed, fences are maintained, home exteriors are kept up, and much more. We can all help out by first making sure our property meets these guidelines. If you notice a potential violation on a neighbor's property, first check the guidelines on the city's website. If it is a violation, the next step is to communicate with your neighbor directly. If that is not possible, or if the problem persists, it can be reported through LS Connect. LS Connect is an online platform for submitting issues to the city. You can access it on the city website or by downloading the app through your mobile device's app store. Once you submit an issue, it is reviewed by the Neighborhood Services team. A Neighborhood Services officer will then visit the site. For any violations found, the Neighborhood Services officer will leave a notice and speak with the property owner if possible. The officer's goal is to help the property owner solve or abate the problem as quickly as possible. After a 10-day period, the officer will inspect the site to see if the issue has been abated. Normally, by this point, the issue has been resolved. If not, depending on the type of issue, an extension could be granted, or the city might fix the problem at the owner's expense. In rare cases, if all other measures have been applied, the issue will be resolved in the municipal court. Neighborhood Services officers work hard to resolve problems quickly and positively. They are here to support the community as we work together to keep our city beautiful.
It's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Quite a few of us are getting questions. I know I've gotten a few questions about the plans. So I didn't know if, just for the public knowledge.
I'm not a politician. I feel like I'm just an average person in Lee Summit. They have a football field set up. Inside these cones are their football fields. Our 2-car garage is we're gonna bring the driveway back through here, and it's gonna go right here. And then, so my family has chickens. When we first got chickens, my husband said, don't treat them as your pets, treat them as chickens, because we're gonna be eating the eggs, and I would like to use them for meat. So don't treat them as your pets. Well, we now have 6 chickens that I consider my pets, and I will not let him kill for meat. So we live downtown, and we love living downtown. These are my children. The first one's Lincoln, and Amira, and Sophia, and Caleb. This is a great neighborhood. Downtown is one big community, and all of the kids get together and they play basketball, and we like to walk to the farmer's market. Here, hold my hand. It's an easy walk, probably less than 10 minutes. The farmer's market has always been a very important part of my life and my family's life. As a matter of fact, when my daughter started kindergarten, I dropped her off and I was going shopping at the farmer's market right behind Lee Summit Elementary. And I was teary-eyed because she was my first and she was going off to kindergarten. And Terry, the butterfly lady, the one that's in the purple shirt, and she used to make little butterfly stickers for everyone, she gave me a big hug and was just so empathetic to the fact that my daughter had just started school. How are you guys doing? Doing well, how are you? Yeah, very good. A lot of the farmers there, they've watched my kids grow up. I love Lee Summit in general. I love that it still has a small town feel while embracing growth and the arts and diversity. And I feel like downtown specifically embodies that. My kids go to Lee Summit Elementary, and a lot of their teachers live downtown, and a lot of the business owners from downtown live downtown. So when we're out walking downtown, we see so many people we know. I lived in Africa until I was 5, and then we moved to the United States, and I've lived in Lee Summit since. A lot of my childhood, my mom was a single mom, and I feel like I was essentially raised by my community and being on council, and it's just such an important way to give back to the community that raised me.
I state your name.
I, Mia Pryor,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
this day of April 2022. The election process was fun. I got to go door to door and talk to people, which is my absolute favorite thing to do, is talking to people and learning about people. I even had people inviting me into their house for dinner or inviting me back to their house to meet their spouse. And I knocked on a door, and the lady that answered the door was my kindergarten teacher. So it was a lot of fun. Is it on? Hi everyone, I'm Councilmember Mia Pryor. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I have one on, can you not? Okay. Maybe I went. I love being a council rep for District 1. I know everyone says this, but District 1 is by far, in my opinion, the best district. Raintree Lake, that's part of District 1. I love that community. Actually, my husband and I got married at the clubhouse in Raintree Lake. I really love all of South Lee Summit. I love the growth that they're going to be experiencing soon and that they've already experienced. I wanted to say that if you guys have a concern, please come tell us what your concern is, because we can only address and help with what we know. We're there to kind of bridge that gap between constituents in the city, and we're the voice of our constituents, and we can go to the city and voice what their concerns are, what their ideas are. So if you have a concern, definitely make us aware. So my big priorities are public safety. That's always one of my top priorities. I've always wanted to make sure that first responders were supported. I think that that's super important to me and to many in our city. But also I I wanted to influence the growth in Lee Summit. I wanted to influence the type of businesses we get here and the type of activities there are to do for our families. If we're going to continue to grow downtown, how important it is to focus on people that already live here and the infrastructure we already have in place.
Our first presentation tonight is going to be Assistant City Manager Ryan Elam, who is going to talk about that very exciting Farmers Market Plaza.
But I want to show you the most recent rendering, fly-through video of that. That's really the best way to kind of get a good sense of what this will look like in the near future.
To see it developing into something as big as it's going to be across from City Hall is super exciting to me. I can't wait for it to get built and to start welcoming people into what the farmers market's going to be, but also everything else that goes along with that development.
Okay. You want to hold it?
Don't drop it.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest.
I'm just an average person in Lee Summit that wanted to be a voice of many that sometimes feel like they don't have a voice. Yeah, I'm not a politician. I'm just a mom that cares.
I'd like to call to order the Community and Economic Development Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. Can I get a call to, or a roll call, please?
Chair Hodges.
Here.
Vice Chair Carlisle.
Present.
Councilmember Pryor.
Here.
Councilmember Funk.
Present.
Planning Commissioner Trafton.
Present.
Thank you. And may I get an approval of the agenda, please?
Chair.
Yes.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Chair Hodges.
Aye. All right, moving on to public comments. We do have one public comment submitted. Miss Debbie Giddings, if you wanted to come up to the microphone.
I'm coming before the,
If you could say your name and address, please. Sorry.
Debbie Giddings, 1015 Southeast Bordner Drive, Lee Summit, 64081.
Thank you.
I'm coming before you to make sure that you are aware that an issue that you talked about at your last meeting, that being PDP revisions in regards to substantial and minor changes, in particular density, was asked to come back with options and other cities. Well, that is on the agenda for the Planning Commission tomorrow. I didn't know whether you all were aware of that. There are going to be 3 options that staff has presented. None of them will be, that you are concerned about, considered substantial anymore. They will all be minor to be able to be approved by the city. The only difference in the 3 option has to do with adjusting the zoning distinction. I watched the video. To me, it did not appear as if you were planning to have those options presented to somebody else before you saw them. What's going to be, also an ordinance will be read if the Planning Commission approves it. They've got a really thick agenda tomorrow night, and I don't know how long their attention span's going to last. What's already been presented and what's planned to be presented tonight to you focuses on allowing the staff to make many more decisions about the development of the city. For instance, Mayor Ballard in June talked about if a house burned, that he would like to make sure that that property is redeveloped. Well, an option that you will be presented tonight says that my house that burned in 2021, according to the UDOs, would be able to have a townhouse built on it, if I understand it correctly. Now, I'm surrounded by 3 subdivisions of single-family residence. There are other conditional changes that are going to be made to zoning classifications as well. I ask that you pretty please look at those very closely. The other thing that's going to be addressed is public hearings. In Missouri, Belton is the only other one that has 1 public hearing. I know that's state law. All the other surrounding Missouri towns all have 2 public hearings. People come to the Planning Commission. There could be really substantial changes that are requested. People don't know if those are going to be approved or disapproved until they come to the city council meeting. But they won't be given an option to speak unless they really review things like I have spent hours doing the last several days. The other thing is that you're going to see that there's going to be something called H through K that will be added to the Planning Commission. Their knowledge, I'm not sure, is going to be able to evaluate like school buildings being approved, where before that wasn't on their plate. So that is my concerns. Today's focus being on zoning and public hearings will streamline the process, which you've been asked to do. But it really just helps the builder put what they want, where they want, at the quickest timeline, and reduces citizens' input. and I don't think that's the best interest of the city. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to 5A, can I get an approval of the October 8th, 2025 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter?
Chair.
Sorry, go ahead.
Chair, I move for approval of the October 8th, 2025 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pryor?
Aye.
Councilmember Funk?
Aye.
Chair Hodges?
Aye.
Vice Chair Carlisle?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item B, TMP-3476, an ordinance exempting the city of Lee Summit, Missouri from the provisions of section 311.2026 of the Revised Missouri Statutes regarding the extension of hours of liquor licensees to sell, serve, and allow the consumption of alcoholic beverages during the 2026 FIFA World Cup Tournament. Major Walters.
Hi, Major Walters, Police Department. That was a mouthful. I'm going to probably repeat it at some point. As you guys know, the World Cup has been at the forefront of everyone's mind. The state's passed many bills expanding hours and permissions for businesses and other vendors. In August, in particular, the Missouri legislature passed a bill allowing any business with a liquor license to operate 24 hours a day and serve alcohol 23 hours a day between June 11th and July 19th during the World Cup. This bill does allow for the cities to pass their own ordinance opting out of the extended drink service. So that's why I'm here today. We are recommending that the city adopt a temporary ordinance for Chapter 4 alcoholic beverages, Article 1, General Section 4.2, hours of sale, allowing the city to opt out or exempt the city of Lee Summit from provisions of the new state statute.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? No question? What to ask?
Okay, so can you tell me what the ordinance says? Like to...
What the ordinance says?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank
So, the ordinance basically, it says, whereas the city recognizes the state of Missouri enacted Section 311.2026 of Missouri Revised Statutes authorizing holders of liquor licenses for on-premises sale by the drink to operate 24 hours a day and to serve alcoholic beverages between 6 a.m. and 5 a.m. of the following day during the period of the 2026 FIFA World Cup Tournament, June 11, 2026 through July 19, 2026, unless a city or other political subdivision affirmatively opts out by ordinance. And whereas the city finds that preserving the city's existing regulations governing hours of sale and service of any intoxicating liquor during that period is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare within the city and is therefore in the best interest of the city. And whereas the City Council recognizes the City of Lee Summit is authorized to adopt an ordinance opting out of the state statute authorizing holders of liquor licenses for on-premises sale by the drink to operate 24 hours a day and to serve alcoholic beverages between 6 a.m. and 5 a.m. of the following day during the period of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Does that answer what you need?
Does. Okay, so pardon my ignorance,
Nope,
but
that's fine.
So we're trying to make it to where our hours are still the same. We want to opt out and our hours would remain the same.
Correct. We would continue to operate as we normally have.
I guess a question was presented to me, which I don't know really anything about the World Cup. I don't know the time of the games or anything, but I guess there's a lot of middle of the night games. Mm-hmm. Would that prevent so that would prevent a bar from being open and serving alcohol?
The way the ordinance is currently written, yes.
If we opted out, that would prevent?
If we opted out with the way that the ordinance language is currently written, yes.
Okay.
The bars would close it as they normally do.
Is there anything that we could consider or talk about making an exception for just downtown businesses? Where do people normally go to watch games in the middle of the night that come from other countries?
From what I understand regarding FIFA, yes, that's a possibility. The state statute does allow for some additional options that can be discussed, but that would have to be discussed, and you guys could come up with a different option.
But you guys don't recommend that, then?
We recommend maintaining the same hours, just in regards to safety, staffing, increased possibilities of intoxicated drivers, minors in possession possibly, just depending on the different laws from the different countries that come in. So we recommend staying how we currently are.
Have we heard anything from any of the downtown businesses or downtown Main Street at all? Like what?
I personally have not, but I'm sure they have opinions.
I personally have not heard anything either.
Okay, I know I haven't okay.
I will just reiterate that, you know, the matter before the committee right now is opting out. If the committee doesn't think it's something that we want to opt out of, then there is no action that we would need to take, essentially. We're kind of automatically in, if you will.
Chair, can I ask a follow-up question? Thank you, Major. I appreciate your time and the information. Just for clarification and clarity, just for people that may not know the hours of operation, could you share what the current standard is in Lee Summit?
I can.
The
I
ordinance?
believe I can.
Oh, I didn't mean to put you on the stump.
No, it's
Sorry.
fine. I am trying to be prepared. I got you right here. Currently, our city ordinance states that no person having a license issued pursuant to our chapter, the consumption, the permit, the consumption of intoxicating liquor in any quantity between the hours of 1:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. So businesses close at 1:30 a.m. You cannot serve alcohol past that time, up until 6 a.m.
Great, thank you.
So I guess for city staff, this seems like it could put us into a little bit of a predicament if we, as the discussion we're having here, that some of these games aren't even going to start until maybe 11. I think from what I've seen, some of them are as late as midnight when they start. Is this going to put us in a position to where we couldn't hold any events at Green Street based on, you know, alcohol sales if there was a championship game? I mean, I think we might be limiting our local establishments a little bit because I think some of these maybe higher profile games might take place a little later at night. I think this could warrant more discussions. I understand the safety concerns and fully agree with Major Walters on this. You know, there's a lot of safety concerns the longer that people are carrying on and having a good time, but I don't want to limit the availability of what we could do based on some of these schedules.
Yeah, so I know the draw day is December 5th. I don't know, will we get the game schedule? I don't know if we'll get the game schedule at that time or not, but I imagine that the game schedule will come out relatively shortly after that. That will then determine and we'll know the schedule moving forward for all of those times. And I believe that at least towards the end, the championship games and things like that will all be in our time zones, considering they're all across the U.S. and they're going to want folks there. But again, if this is an item that the committee prefers to wait on, then that is something that the committee can do.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we might want to look at the draw schedule and see what's actually going to happen before we, I would hate to take away any attraction that we could get.
Would we actually, if we have a midnight game, are we actually going to be opening this up at midnight and hosting stuff? Is that something we would actually do?
I would say for Green Street, very unlikely.
Right.
For Green Street's operations of that, those will likely be handled through LS Gold 26, through Football Friday events, and then I'll just say we would not be hosting a watch party at 2 a.m.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. Do you care if I put Mr. Rogers on the spot, and would that be okay?
Mr. Rogers.
Have any businesses approached you at all and with this concern, or is it?
We've not had that discussion yet. I mean, I know there's dates scheduled. We don't have times, and so I think knowing times would be the bigger thing. And so, I mean, my recommendation, I mean, personally, if we could wait till after the draw day, after we know those times, whether or not they're going to be more, central time zone positive. I mean, yeah, definitely understand police and concerns for safety and not wanting to have officers out at 4 a.m. for a soccer match, but we just don't know those times yet. So I don't know if there's ability to wait till December or January for this, but.
When did you say we have to decide by? Is there a specific time we have to decide by?
I can check. I don't think so, but I can check.
So we have less police officers on shift at night, correct? Or do we not? Is it the same as day and night?
They're similar.
Okay.
It depends on the day, call-ins, all those type of things, but we would staff appropriately.
I'm good with, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion.
I know personally, I would like to side with, I personally would like to side with police just because I don't see putting safety underneath business revenue for our city, because that's kind of the theme of this whole World Cup thing is we want to maintain the safety of our city, but then I feel like when we do things like this, it's kind of going the other direction just so people can have alcohol. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like something we should be doing. But if you guys want to wait and discuss it later, we can. I'm open to whatever you want to do.
I guess I don't see the harm in discussing it at a later date. I mean, I want to respect Major Walters for sure, and I trust her opinion. But yeah, I guess I don't understand the harm in maybe discussing it after the schedule is released.
Well, I guess the question is, so if we have games that are at 2 a.m., would you want to change it? Because if that's not an option, then there's no need to push it off. So if everybody agrees, like, yeah, then we'll hold off. Otherwise, if it does not going to make a difference, let's not push it off. It's kind of, because if it's the potential and we're waiting on a time that may or may not be early in the morning, but if it's not an option for you right now, then I think we should just.
I guess if a lot of businesses are against it and they feel like they're very passionate about us hearing them, then I want to give them an opportunity to speak.
Right, but I don't think businesses
not.
are going to be against it because that's revenue for them. So we can't think in that aspect because obviously they're going to want the business, and I don't fault them for that.
But then that's also them having to staff it in the middle of the night, and they may not want to do that. Some businesses may not want to even mess
but they
with
don't
that.
have to. So, I mean, I don't know. So if you guys want to continue it, we can. But if you already have the foreknowledge that if it's at a 2, 3 a.m. game, it's silly to be putting that on the police. So what is that? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just going to say that I don't see that they would schedule games in Kansas City to start at midnight. I just couldn't see that happening. I could very well be wrong. I'm assuming that all the games will take place during regular hours of whatever time zone they're in. So what really I think we're looking at is, are we wanting our businesses to have the ability to stay open to watch games in other countries that might be important to somebody who might be playing here? Really, I think that's what we're looking at. As far as staying open and staying open 24 hours a day and serving booze 23 hours a day, I don't think that's something that's good for our city. I agree where it comes to businesses, they might have very strong opinions on this. I think December 5th and thereafter, once we find out when the games will actually be played and start times, we'll know more, but it's not going to change my opinion. So, thank you.
I'm with Councilmember Carlisle. So, what do you?
I think we just recommend it to council and as it is.
Are you good with that? Sure. Okay. All right. So I would look for a motion.
Chair, I would move to forward TMP-3476 onto full council with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Hodges,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on to discussion item C, 2025-7289, discussion of housing zoning reform discussion and recommendations by Ms. Nassif.
Good evening, Amy Nassif, Deputy Director of Development. Let me get this pulled up for us here. Excuse me. So tonight, continue discussion on our favorite topic, housing. And continuing on from our discussions really that started a couple years ago, but back in June, we were with the City Council and looking for opportunity areas to provide some efficiencies, see where we can increase some administrative review authority and things of that nature to help advance our housing efforts and our housing goals and our Ignite plans. So we were here last month and we were focusing then on the review and process areas, and those items will be on the Planning Commission agenda for tomorrow evening as we discussed here last month. And that does also include some of those options and things that we talked about as well for PDP revisions and things of that nature, which I'm happy to answer any questions on if needed too. And then zoning reform areas is where we're going to focus our attention on tonight. And so this is going to be those expanding our land use entitlements, consideration of a new zoning district, and also looking at our public hearing requirements. And these zoning reform areas are really important because one of the main things that we hear from home builders and in all of our work that we do with our national organizations and locally too is that zoning reform is the main area that cities and municipalities can help towards that getting more housing on the market, building more housing advocacy with help with the attainability. And so, excuse me, from our last meeting too, we shared this existing development review process chart and where the process from start to finish typical might be around that 9 months time frame. And tonight's focus on the zoning piece of the process and public hearings is really these boxes or these first kind of 4 areas that I have highlighted for you. So that's going to be with our zonings, PDPs and concept plans, when there's modifications or even when there's revisions at some points. So before we get into talking about some zoning reform areas, just want to do a little check back with you on some zoning basics on what zoning is. So zoning is the act of dividing land into those districts or zones, and then each of those districts and zones have its own set of criteria or allowable uses and minimum district requirements like building height, lot size, and setbacks and things. And cities have those zoning laws and these zoning acts in our ordinances to help ensure that orderly growth for community development and how we would like our community to grow. And these powers are derived originally a few years back in 1926 in the Department of Commerce, but all states in their state statutes, including our own, have a set of criteria that govern how our processes for zoning should work and how they should look. And every state has its own nuances and a little bit different. So for our state statute requirements here in Missouri, we were governed under Chapter 89, and which does say that a public hearing must be held, and we'll get into a little bit more on that later tonight. But also that with that public hearing, there is required to be a notice in the paper of at least 15 days in advance. Planning Commission makes those recommendations to City Council, and then City Council reviews and renders a decision. Seems exactly like, how we do things now with all of our rezoning requests. And what I wanted to share with you first was a little zoning timeline for you. So this timeline does not show when staff first gets a project or the pre-app meetings, because there's months and months of work that happen on the very, very front end. But since we're focusing tonight on the zoning piece and how we can improve those zoning processes, I started it, and this is a typical schedule on our development schedule, where October 4th would be an actual date that we had for public noticing. And so you can see if a project landed on that time frame for October 4th, for scheduling that public notice, It was submitted actually just, back in August to us, but the public noticing would have started October 4th to meet state statute requirements. And the way our current zoning process is and timelines, you're not going to get to second reading till December 2nd. And that's a lot of time. Time is money for developers and things of that nature too. And for this section too, I want to make sure I'm clear. There are some updates tonight that will be focusing, all of these are focusing on how to advance housing efforts. But there's some, such as our public hearing requirements, that will impact and be applicable to all of our different zoning applications that we get, commercial, residential, or industrial. Some not, but this is one area that is. And I did also, I had a couple small tweaks that I did make to the slides. I'll point those out as we go along. This one, and it was just more housekeeping, but I wanted to put on the bottom of the screen that it says in your packet per our Lee's Summit development schedule, but I just added if submitted on August 21st, just in case there was any question on when that submittal date would have been. So that's kind of just really, really high level on public hearings that we're going to dive much deeper into. That's just to give you an appetizer on it. But so we're going to move along to the first section of updates and recommendations, which would be our land use entitlements. And we're going to do like we did last time, where we talk about our recommendations, what our research found, and some best practices. But so land use entitlements all start with what zoning district are you in? Which again, that first thing we look at on our zoning map, and that will tell us then what those uses are allowed based on what our land use and our zoning district use table is in the UDO. So this is a snapshot for you. Our use table is about 20 pages long, so I did not obviously put the whole thing because that would be really small font. But what I did is I kept it to just mainly the residential uses, since in this first series of updates, we're just going to be talking about residential developments. But so, as you can see here across the top, we have all of our zoning districts, and on the side columns, we have all of the different residential types. Minus zero, or the zero lot developments there, but there's one or two others that are in some of these residential districts, but these are the main ones. A P means you're permitted by right. So P means if you went over to say the R1 right now and you were zoned R1, single family detached dwelling is allowed as a permitted use by right in that district. So that's why you'll see people coming in and rezoning to that R1 district before they're allowed to zone there, right? The C, if you scroll down a little bit farther, and I have some of these things here if you want me to use those. So the C, like right here, for instance, is a conditional use. And so that just means that it's allowed in that zoning district, but there's a set of additional standards beyond what's typical in our code that are predetermined, that are required in addition. So short-term rentals, for instance, it is a conditional use. You do have to be zoned R1. And then in addition to some of our standard requirements, that, for instance, has requirements of you have to be in certain areas, you have to be a certain lot size. So anything beyond the norm that fits in our tables is considered that conditional use. And then a special use, or S, means special use permit. And those are uses that the city has decided, instead of being by right, we want to come in and have a separate public hearing for that. And traditionally, those are ones that have time limits on it. So that way we can keep track of it, keep track of those uses. They can come back in when they expire, and we can reevaluate to make sure that's okay. So those are the three categories of uses. Are there any questions on any of that so far?
Yeah, well, so during public comments, she had mentioned that if her house burnt down, she could build a townhome without having to come before council for approval.
That is not correct, and we're going to get in. We'll get there.
We'll get into that.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Zoning's hard. Zoning's difficult. I'm very impressed by all the stuff that she was able to read and come back with, because it's a difficult and very it's a convoluted topic, which is why there's always so much work and goes into it. So some of it is correct, some of it not yet, but it's like on slide 20. So we'll get there, or we're coming down, or actually in a couple slides here, actually, now that I think about it. So, so this is I just wanted to set up and make sure we all understood and we're on the same page on what the different use types were before we get into some of the specifics. And so this is where I think one of the areas of interest from our public speaker was, which is the next slide, if it'll go. So, One of the things that we talked about back in September was, are there opportunities in areas where we can increase the amounts or types of residential structures that can be built in each of our districts? And should we even? So this is what staff's doing tonight, is just presenting for you the research and just some ideas for just the conversation and to see where we'd like to go. And there was some interest of, hey, let's learn more about that. One of the things that's being recommended by APA and ULI is we need to increase the districts that allow more and more residential use types. For home builders, especially when you reduce some of the inconsistencies or when you reduce some of the unknowns and you allow more uses in more of the districts, that helps them with understanding properties that they can build on, what the process should be, and a general understanding of what things may or may not get approved.
Can
So
we ask you a
just for
question real
discussion,
fast?
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but just while we're on use types, do the use types at all depend upon whether they are for sale or for rent?
No, not from zoning or zoning laws. They do not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So what we were just starting the conversation with and recommending was, if we want to dip our toe in the water and consider adding some uses, the areas in red is what staff was recommending that we could look at and consider doing. So if the R1, for instance, and the RP1 district, and this was some of the questions from tonight, was we could increase the uses to allow townhouse, which would be a single family attached, so no more than 2 units, in the R1 or RP1 district. You could also consider looking at duplex as a conditional use in the RP1 or triplex. We would not recommend like anything further beyond that, but these are just areas that other cities across the country have found some positivity in and releasing and having some mix of uses. And we do have some of this now, and we'll get into a little bit. What developers are doing oftentimes is they're coming in and zoning to the PMIX district that we have. And sometimes what we hear from residents and also developers is, well, when you look at the map, it just says PMIX. It doesn't really give you a good, accurate description all the time of what that district really is. So this is also one way to help with that as well. So this is just some options. So want to also, and this leads into your question, council member, as well, is when we were here in September, there was some questions of what's the difference between townhome, villa, duplex, right? Back in the old days, in the 70s and 80s, when zoning codes were really developing, this is across the Midwest especially too, townhomes were traditionally written and defined, and still are in most cities' codes, as where it is a 2-family attached, where you either own or rent the structure itself and also the yard. Whereas the duplexes were traditionally always rentals only, and you occupy the space or you rent the structure itself, but the yard is common ground and no one has claim over the front or back or side yards. So that was always used to be the difference. Many zoning codes still have kind of the same definitions or terms right now, but developers, home builders, especially in the last 5 years, are using these terms interchangeably quite a bit for marketing, and there's also really not a lot of difference anymore, especially in the architectural style. So if you look at these are actually all images from around the KC Metro, and some of these are rentals and some of these are home ownership. But with standards that cities have in place nowadays, just driving by, you can't tell. And so wanted to share, so first column, obviously, this is townhomes. The second are the villas or the duplex. And also, home builders often, if they don't call or marketing as townhomes, and they'll do that up to 4plexes and 6plexes that we've seen, they also will use the same term for villa to be kind of universal nowadays too. So, and then we have triplexes, which is no more than 3 attached units, and then the 4plex. And that's also how our code has things set up too. So hopefully that answers the question that we had from, I think it was last month, on the differences there. So then getting back to what would our recommendation be? And this is how one way that it could work. If we did want to, and I just pulled out townhomes, for instance, just as an example. So if we wanted to allow or consider allowing townhomes as a conditional use on any property, let's just say RP1, that would apply for any vacant or redevelopment, provided that you have to meet a set of UDO requirements like any other land use. And so the development standards would set and control the size and the scale, and we have a table, and this would just fit right in there if we did this. We would include and write a series of setback requirements, building height requirements for the district, lot size requirements. In this case, be say 5,900 square feet or 5,100 for our P1 or 5,900 for the R1, and then set a maximum number of units. Now, we are recommending that if we wanted to try this out or talk more about it, that it would not be a permitted or that by right use, but we would make it conditional. Because we did hear last time also, and we are concerned as well, the intent was not to have a single-family neighborhood suddenly flip overnight and everything turn into, townhomes or villas or duplexes. And so we heard some of those concerns last time too. So making it conditional will let us put additional sets of criteria on it. And so here's two options for your all's consideration tonight. Was option A was this would be no more than 2 residences per structure. And again, you have to meet all the criteria. Or we could also say that this would, same thing, but it would also only apply to existing, would not apply to existing developed neighborhoods. So if you're already zoned R1 or RP1, you're platted neighborhood like Stony Creek, Manors at Bailey Farms, or anything like that, you could not have this land use there. The more intent would be for vacant land that hasn't developed yet, that hasn't been rezoned, or if you're like next to 2, 10-acre lots next to you and it hasn't been platted yet. But those were just 2 options if we just wanted to have a discussion. So would you like me to kind of stop there, or?
Does anybody have any questions?
To think about that, because I think the next slide goes into the research, but I can
Go
keep.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the research we found was really interesting, and so what we did was, because of much what we're talking about with zoning and zoning laws and things, we stuck mostly to Missouri, but we really did a lot further reach than just, say, our next door neighbors in Independence and Blue Springs. We went all the way through to the St. Louis side. Because we really wanted to get a good view of the state and what the state looks like for you all. And then also, since we do always like to see what our friends and neighbors are doing, Kansas is only, 25-minute drive, 20 minutes if you're driving fast. So just what does it look like over there too? Maybe 15, I don't know. Depends on the time of day. So this is what we found, that actually, no one is really adding duplexes or townhomes yet in the state of Missouri or in the KC metro area. Except for one city, which is St. Charles, which is a newer city that really had a lot of boom starting about 10 years ago. But yeah, no one has this yet. So we are right in line currently with how other cities have stuff, have their land uses by district. But the interesting thing is that all of the cities, including us, allow every single residential type in that PMIX district already. So we're kind of already doing this in a way, but it's just not as clear or transparent sometimes to residents or even to us when we're looking again at those maps. So, sorry, I don't know this. So in summary, we're recommending considering adding some additional land uses in the R1, RP1, and RP2. This does increase opportunities for housing choice. It removes zoning barriers which are supported by National League of Cities, ICMA, ULI, APA, just a host of folks, including the home builders themselves. And this would increase our mid-density opportunities and options and help maintain our thriving neighborhoods to meet the goals of our IGNITE plan as well. So before I go to the next section, I feel like we should talk more. And I can go to any slide you want or you would like.
Go ahead.
Just on this topic.
We've got a couple. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mia.
Thank you. So if I'm understanding this correctly, can you go up a couple slides to where it listed all of the cities? So there are not any other cities outside that allow townhouses outside of, like, that allow townhouses in R1 zoning or RP1 zoning?
Yep, that's
besides
right.
St. Charles? Okay.
Well, this actually goes deeper than that. So what we did is we looked at what cities allow townhomes or duplex, and then does anyone allow, we're also recommending a triplex be allowed in RP2. We only found that Joplin does that right now. And then we only found that St. Charles is doing the duplex or the villa in the R1 or RP1. No one else does. However, we did also find that we do right now, along with every single other city we looked at, if you come in instead and make it a PMIC zoning, every single residential type is allowed.
Okay. Thank you.
We've got, so go ahead, Councilmember Funk, and then we'll go to Carlisle.
So I guess the question that I have is, no one else is doing this. Why are we considering it?
Well, for a couple of reasons. First, it was a great thing to go through because we were surprised by the results too, honestly. But we initiated this from our city council discussions of where can we remove zoning barriers. And one of the main ways nationally that is trending that people are doing and requesting be done is to increase the amount of uses in each district. Because what that does is increase the viability and the diversity of housing that you can build in that zoning district. So that's why we initially were like, okay, well, here's one area we can at least just have the conversation with you all about and see what you think.
So just a scenario, if a developer has a development and they're building along single-family homes and that market kind of slides off, and their best use is to start putting in townhomes, villas, same thing. Is there a requirement in there that those have to be for sale? I think of property values, I think of, you know, someone builds a $700,000 home and they have no idea that maybe this developer's having to switch gears for any other mechanism other than marketability, that whatever the case may be, and he decides next to that $750,000 home, he's going to build some townhomes, and then he's going to decide that he's going to hire this management company to rent those out. I'm going to voice my opinion real quick. I'm going to say no way. No.
And that's why we gave two options, because the other option would be if there hasn't been zoning, it hasn't been platted, it's not been done, so you're not going in and changing that character of an existing neighborhood. Today, we have had some developers come in and even ask, and when that does happen of any kind of land use switch or that goes to that higher density, that is a significant change, and that would also remain as a significant change with our process updates for a revised PDP. And that does require and would still require coming back through the entire process for consideration by Planning Commission and City Council, and would have to meet a lot of regulations. That doesn't always fit too, but that wouldn't be something that would be done. Now, to your other point though, with the can you prevent or can you restrict the renting of them, that is something that can be done or considered with a development agreement. But if we're talking just about zoning and the zoning ordinances, that is not something that any municipality has that authority to do. But under a development agreement, if there was one, that could be done.
So going back in your...
Oh, I thought he was coming up to talk. Okay.
Going back in your slides, you don't have to go back. The timeline that we have to notify, go to planning, notify, come to council, so on and so forth, that's state statute. That timeline's not going to change, correct?
That is state statute. If we continue to do our 2 public hearing process, yes. For every time there's a public hearing, that's a state statute. These are the state statute requirements.
But are you making a recommendation that we go to 1 public hearing?
In about 20 minutes, I will.
Okay.
Yes. But for this purposes, let's consider adding some uses, that's a separate item, but yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Good. Councilmember Carlisle.
Thank you. So back to the cities. Okay, so on this page, everywhere that we see this is a use by right or a use by condition?
The majority of them are by right.
Okay.
I mean, they still have their own building heights, setbacks, and those things, but those conditional or extra kind of requirements, most don't have. That'd be just something that we would recommend to give us extra controls.
So right now, we are doing everything, and a lot of people aren't doing a lot, right?
Right now, we are in line, like, our districts align with how other people are doing theirs. And we allow every type of residential use if someone comes in and does the P-mix.
Right.
But, yeah, we're in line with how the rest of the state's doing R1, RP1, RP2, with few exception.
Okay, and then so what what is being recommended right now to us is to allow these other uses, the single-family townhouse, two-family duplex, and three-family triplex. Okay, so the first two by conditional, which means they would have to come in front of council before they could do that, or that would be able to be approved by you?
Oh, no, these would all have to, well, conditional uses, they have an additional layer of requirements. If they don't have zoning yet, they have to come into you.
Okay, so.
Just like today, it would operate the same way, like the RP2 right now, today, in today's world, if you see this, RP2 allows single-family homes and also townhomes. So if we have someone that came in right now and zoned RP2, and they only showed single-family detached, say it's for 100 lots, and they came back to staff and they said, you know what, we want to flip 50 of them to townhouse. By right, that's allowed in the district. It doesn't mean, though, the preliminary development plan doesn't require to coming back through, because that's a pretty big change.
Right.
And that would come back through with public hearing to planning commission to city council, have an additional set of criteria they have to meet. It's not a given, like, yes, you
Not
can
an
automatically
easy
too.
change.
That would not, no, they would have a lot to have to change and adjust.
Okay, so if we're making these conditional, let's just say we do this. We say yes, and we do this. And we're making these things conditional. How is that easing up anything on developers?
Because it adds additional housing diversity and choice that they can build in those districts when they come in, instead of having to come back through. Like, they wouldn't have to do a P-mix. They wouldn't have to come in and break up their land and do this section zoned R1, this section zoned R3, this is R2. And it gives them some understanding and transparency of what the city would allow, even when they start the discussions on what they should or shouldn't zone to.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that a developer could come in front of us, if we said yes to this, a developer could come in front of us and say they're in R1, and they could come with a plan that is all single-family detached. And it goes through planning, it goes through council, it's all approved. X amount of years later, they decide they want to add townhomes. Do they have to come back to council?
Yes.
Because that's a change.
That's a big change. That's
Even though
major
it's a
change.
conditional use.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So no matter what, we're going to see it again if this is approved.
Yes.
In what world would we not?
The only world you may not would be, so there's these options here, right? So if we chose option A, which means it could be on any property that's already zoned R1, let's say I win Powerball and I buy 2 lots in Stony Creek or something, and then I want to tear it down and build 2 villas. If it's 2 lots out of, like, say, 200, if it meets all the UDO requirements without needing modification, you may not see it. But if you chose that, let's pursue this or see what it would look like under option B, I wouldn't be allowed to do that at all, because it would only apply to vacant parcels that are not part of an existing platted subdivided neighborhood. So it'd be like land that's not developed now, some old farmland,
Okay, but
areas that are vacant.
What about those lots like here in the downtown core that we just have vacant lots sitting? Would this allow those people who buy those to put in a townhome instead of a single-family home?
I don't think it would fit, but they'd have to show that they can make it fit, because you're going to have setbacks and, front, side, rear setbacks. You're going to have lot size requirements. There's going to be density requirements that are going to be very locked in.
So even though we just went through the whole process of lowering in those setbacks for, like in the downtown core, the redevelopment areas, they still wouldn't be able to fit without coming in front of us?
Most of the parcels are so small, I don't think it would fit. Now, again, if we did option, then that you're looking at option A. If we pursued this under option B, then those are platted and those are part of a bigger like neighborhood, and it wouldn't apply to them and they wouldn't be allowed to.
Even though the plats are like 100 years old or whatever?
Yeah, it's still platted, it's still part of a subdivision.
Okay,
Those plats don't expire,
for us to keep the most control, option B would be the option,
Yeah,
or
and-
do nothing.
Or do nothing. And the other thing too, I'll give you door number 3. You could just pick one of these. You know, if you are comfortable with triplex and the RP2 only, or if you're only comfortable in the R, you know what I mean? Like there's that as well. I didn't want to throw too much at you guys, and then it's like everything popping everywhere. But those are options too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I hadn't really thought about an option C, but as it is, I don't like anything in RP1 or R1. I think that should be single family. The RP2, it's already, I mean, I'm personally, just based on this chart that's shown right now, I'm not necessarily opposed to a triplex being an RP2. But as what I've seen so far, I'm not for anything other than single family in R1 or RP1.
Okay, great.
But thank you.
Yeah. Or do you have more to present, right?
I got a little more.
You just keep going. You're good.
Okay, yeah. Great. So thank you for that feedback. That's super helpful. All right, let's go to door number 2. So the other thing that we talked about very, very high level in September was the creation of a new residential district. This would be a new R2 district, so it wouldn't apply to anything existing at all, which is another way to increase our availability and our diversity in districts, but not touch anything that's existing zone, because nothing is. There is no such thing as an R2. So again, looking at our land use chart here, and as you can see, so our residential districts go from like the lowest density in our ag district, which I think is like 2 houses per every 10 acres, and it goes all the way down to the highest density, which is RP4. So we do have an R1, which is a conventional district, and then RP1, which is a planned district. But then we go straight to RP2. So the thought is we could also increase housing choice and housing availability and increase on the marketplace for home builders if we added a new district. Then again, it helps to keep and solidify our existing subdivisions, because nobody would have this zoning district because it doesn't exist yet. And so what I mean by all that is R2 would be a conventional district, which provides an additional streamlined process for home builders. That would increase efficiencies and review times. You also then don't have that issue of zoning to P-mix, and then no one really fully understands what uses can go there. And then there's that huge time savings and cost savings for developers. The R2 district also is our more middle kind of density district, and that would increase several missing middle housing options, which is something that's highlighted in our Ignite comprehensive plan, and I believe strategic plan too. But that would help increase availability for duplexes or villas, like the cottage kind of court or the townhomes, also the triple stacked, or just means like triplex. So an R2 district, this is what it would look like in the land use table. This is not like baked or anything. This was just to show you kind of comparing, all the other, the other districts. So the R2 would mirror the RP2. We did put triplex here just because of our last conversation. We weren't sure if I should just leave it out or not, but that's just the only reason it's in there. But same as the R1 and RP1, where many of the uses are the same, the uses would be the same for the R2 and the RP2. And the only uses that aren't shown here, like cemetery, church, school, I just didn't have enough room on the page, and we're mostly talking about the residential here. So But how would this work? I mentioned this was a conventional district, and what I mean by that is it's not planned. It means that it would work just like our agriculture, our residential large lot, our rural density development, and our R1 does now. A conventional district has a set of criteria in your code, and so when a developer comes in, there's no negotiations of requirements, there's no modifications. If you want this more streamlined, this less expensive process, basically the exchange is you're going to do everything the city said to do. And so the benefit to the developers are it's less expensive and it's a little quicker because you don't need a preliminary development plan with it. Right now, our R1 district, it would work the same exact way. R1, you do not have a preliminary development plan, and that is a huge cost savings for home builders as well. So what you do get is a plat, and that plat shows those legal lots of record, the easements, and ingress, egress. But it would work that same way. So for the developers, it's great to have conventional district options for that time savings and cost savings. The benefit to a city is you're doing everything the code says to do without a single modification or change. Because if anything you want to change or modify or get a variance to, you're tripping out of that district and you have to do the planned district instead. And the conventional district still also has a public hearing, goes to planning commission, gets public comment, and then goes to city council for final review. So this is what it would look like. We have a chart already in our code for every single district. It would just kind of fit right in here, tucked in there, and so we would develop the density and the minimum lot size requirements. The minimum lot size, if you all were good with this, it starts to drop every 500 square feet for each district, so that's where we would start with an R2. But like I said, it would have a density already predetermined, lot size predetermined, lot width, everything predetermined. And again, just like in today's world, when someone comes in with an R1, if they're like, hey, I just want a really minor change, or I want a really slight change to this setback or this building height, we're like, sorry, you either need to do what the code says to do, or you can do an RP1 and come in with a full set of plans. So it would, again, work that same way. We did look at other cities, and this one was more interesting. Overland Park does allow both single and two-family dwellings in a R2 or conventional district. Green Valley does as well. Carmel, Indiana does with their R3 district. And then Independence does too, but the townhomes, so duplexes and things are by right. Townhomes are allowed with the conditions like we talked about before. And so that's just the recommendation for this piece of it. It's an opportunity, again, to remove some of those zoning barriers and unknowns for developers and property owners. Also supported a very great deal by Strong Towns, ICMA, APA, and National League of Cities. And again, it would increase our housing choice and also align with several of our Ignite goals. And I can stop right here for this one.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so with making a whole new district, this is just zoning, so again, we're not saying that you can't rent in this district. These
Correct.
can be for rent, for sale, whatever the developer wants to do.
Same as RP2 right now.
Okay. I mean, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think I like it better than I liked the other option. I think it just makes it clearer. Mm-hmm. It's easier, at least for my brain. And I know that we need the missing middle. I know that lots of people want to come to Lee Summit, and we just don't have the space for them. But in my own personal hope, I was hoping that our missing middle would be a lot of it for sale, because that's how people can grow into a single family home, right? If you don't have anything small enough for you to afford to purchase, you can never grow into a bigger home for your family. So I have nothing against people who want to rent, but it just doesn't make you money. Mm-hmm. It makes the developer or whomever money, right? And so to really fix the problem we have as I see it, which is affordability for people, some of these things somehow need to be able to be for sale. And we just need somebody that's willing to come in and do that, or we need to make it happen somehow.
The other great point that you bring up is that if we did this R2 district, it would also include single-family lots, but they would be smaller lots than your RP1 and your R1 is. So that also is an opportunity to get that. No one does starter homes anymore, but like, the smaller lot, the starter
Absolutely,
home,
but it also would let them be for rent, which is
absolutely,
what everybody's doing right now, and which is why nobody can afford to buy a home. So,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So I guess I have a question, how this compares to what you presented previously. So I'm not a big fan of that. I want to kind of protect our conventional R1. But what's to say a developer doesn't come in and they're just going to choose this because it gives them the freedom that we're not giving them in R1? So they can do the same thing they would want to do. Because you just said, I thought this was just going to be 2, 3, 4 plexes, or townhomes and that. So they could put in single family with this too and do the mix that we're not allowing in R1. But if they choose R2, you can do it.
They can do that right now in our RP2. We allow that right now. So our RP2 district, which is existing right now, allows single-family detached, attached, and duplex. So this is just giving them the same replicate district, just like RP1 and RP1, RP1 and R1. It's just, hey, if you're going to meet all of our requirements, you don't have to give us a PDP when you come through. You can just do it with a preliminary plat. Same like that. It's the same way that the R1 works.
Okay, so we're basically just getting rid of the PDP in this for them.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you're adding more criteria too, and there's no modifications, no variances, no changes. So, and some of the R1s, like Winterset, Stony Creek, Raintree, and Lakewood, they're all zoned R1 as just some example. So, you set the criteria really tight, and we even have architecture standards now too for those duplexes and things we didn't have before. But just like any of these other ones, if there's even a small variance or modification they want in an R1, we tell them right now, you have to do RP1. It would be the same with this.
Okay. Does anybody else have any? Go ahead.
So they can do this in RP2. I mean, I understand that they can build single families and then maybe come around the corner and put some townhomes and so on and so forth. That's based on the way they plat the project. When they come to you, they show you a plat, they say, hey, this is what we're gonna do. That's what they have to do. What we're saying in R2 is they could show you a plot of land and say, hey, we're gonna build single family, we're gonna build some townhomes, villas, and then maybe throw up some triplexes in the end. You wouldn't necessarily see what that's going to look like. You would just be telling them this is the way they have to be built.
We would see it at building permit. We would see it when the permits come in and are pulled. But what you all would get is a plat, same as is just the plat instead of a PDP. Same as like the R1, when you all don't see the architecture and the like those details right now, it's the same. And even with the R2, you could shave down some of these. We could get rid of the triplex, or you could make all these conditional so we could put additional criteria on them too.
They can do this in RP2. We're just trying to limit the amount of time and money they have to spend to do this in R2.
Yes, it's just a way to say, hey, if you're going to meet all of our requirements and you're not going to ask for anything special and you don't need to negotiate anything, then you can come through with a preliminary plat for your zoning instead of a development plan.
I have to think on that. We have it in RP2, and I think we have a little bit of control in RP2. I think.
And I'm trying to think, it's like I said, it's the same exact thing as R1 that we do now. And And again, maybe it's a more comfort level if we remove duplex and triplex from this. I mean, if you wanted to, again, just kind of try it, but maybe not give them all those land uses.
I think we would have to, sorry to interrupt, I
Yeah,
think
no.
we would have to put some very strict guidelines in place that somebody's just not throwing up some townhomes just the other side of some single-family homes or next to maybe a nice neighborhood or something. I mean, I think it would be a very, very stringent process of you either check this box or you don't.
You don't.
I mean, I think they would be better off to go to RP2 and come with their development plan and be able to say, hey, maybe I don't want to use this many-sided architect. Would you, based on this piece of land, I back up to these woods, do I need to do that? I don't know. It's kind of tricky in my head of seeing how this would, one, benefit them, and two, benefit our citizens of what could be being built next to them, I guess, is just what I'm thinking. So, thank you, Chair.
Right, Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you. Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, I personally would like to keep R1 the way it is, RP1 the way it is. R2, I would like to see, like you kind of just mentioned, if we go with an R2, just have that be single family and then townhouse. That way, I mean, there are a lot of neighborhoods, Eagle Creek, they do a lot of even nice neighborhoods use townhouses as the buffers. So that would be R2 then, correct? Like something like that?
You could just have, yes, we could remove the duplex and the triplex from
Remove that and then move the triplex to RP2. So then there's still that option of a triplex under RP2. Is that a possibility?
Yes, and that would, like from the first conversation, yes, that was one of our recommendations. You could do that.
Okay, so then R2 would just be single family townhouse, and then RP2 would add the triplex. That's what I would like to see if we go with something like R2.
We just see.
And then leave R1 and RP1 completely alone. Does that make sense? Because as it is right now, like R2, it almost seems like RP2 is going back from what R2 is with, so yeah. That's what I would like to see.
Sure.
You done?
Did you guys hear what I said?
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Chair, I wanted to tag on to some of her comments. Thank you. Similarly, I do like the idea of an R2, but not with the triplex in it. And so I think that should stay over in RP3. I was curious, though, about the C, like conditional, like what would be a reason to add a C to, or I know that Councilperson Pryor was talking about adding the triplex to RP2. I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious about what the C would do. What would that do?
The conditional, if you make it a C, we could add beyond your traditional setbacks, building height, density, lot width. You could add additional criteria. For instance, you could say it has to be on, you could say it has to be property that's not currently zoned, although that wouldn't really matter here because there's nothing zoned R2. You could say that it has to be on a property that is, not within X amount of feet of something. You could say it has to be in a certain area of town, things of that nature. That's some of the things we've done in some of the other conditional uses.
I mean, I actually lean towards leaving it in a RP3, but I would like to see the duplex permitted in the R2 as well, so it mirrors the RP2, but so that's my only difference with Councilmember Pryor. But anyway, I do like the idea of it, so thank you for bringing it forward. And I definitely would prefer to keep RP1 and R1 like the way it is as well. I agree with those comments, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go
I do agree also with our hearing after that. I do agree keeping it as RP3. So if we do an R2, it would just be townhouse and single family, and then
No,
RP2.
no duplex? Take out the duplex and
Wouldn't that be
triplex?
RP2?
Oh, I'm sorry. So for RP2, don't add,
Yeah, put that, keep it just as R3.
keep it as, okay? And then, but you were still saying, I think I had your comment for if there's an R2 district, only allow that for single family and townhome.
That's what I would like to personally see. I mean, I don't, but.
So I might be a little bit confused, so correct me. So with the R2 compared to the RP2, if they're wanting to do, if we say we allow single family and townhomes, I mean, granted, not that somebody would do this, but they have the potential of going single family, townhome, single family, townhome. We wouldn't see that plan because we're just seeing the plat, right?
You would see the plat along with a description of what they want to do in terms of like, they would share with you, and we would see that this plat, you would see on the plat the different sizes, because it would definitely have to be a different size too.
Right.
And with the cuts and things of that, it would be a townhome.
Still see the outline of this is the setup. I would have, you have single family on this side, townhomes on this side, so we would still see what their vision
layout.
is, and they would have to follow that. But- Well, right. Okay. Yeah, go for it.
So how many developers, I mean, are you seeing a lot of pushback from developers that are telling you what we're doing is too complicated or too stringent? I mean, are you seeing that, or are we doing this to maybe attract some outside competition or?
I mean, you always want to be a city and a community of choice where quality developers want to come in and work. We have a great relationship with our home builder community. They were fully supportive of these and thought they were great, but they also do think our current processes are going really well, and they do enjoy working here. But their, communication with us was anything that we can continue to do to continue to move that needle and continue to, look at efficiencies, they of course support and think would be a wonderful idea. But are we broken right now? No, if that's your question.
Okay. I think, Chair, in my opinion, I mean, the R2 is, I think there's still a little bit of control for council and working with staff to understand what these plats are going to look like. I mean, if it opens the door for that missing middle, maybe some smaller lots, maybe some different setbacks or different things like that, that obviously we would all talk about to develop this R2. I would be open to listening to more about R2.
Okay. Chime in on that. Did you have more to present, or do you want us to start?
Add one more.
Okay,
Well, like one
go.
more section, if that's
Go
okay.
ahead. Oh, yeah, go ahead and do your question.
I did want to circle back to follow up on Councilmember Carlisle's comments about the missing middle. And, I know we can't dictate rental versus, purchase, but we do need that purchase option. And so, I mean, as a comment, I would just say, how do we build a strategy as a community to get developers to build that in our community and where we're going to do it? And how do we as a community say, we want this in this part of our town? Because I think the other thing we run up against and we hear about, at least on the Planning Commission, is, not near my neighborhood. I don't want that missing middle next to my $600,000 neighborhood home because my house is appreciating. So I guess that's the other thing we need to be thoughtful about, because I mean, it seems like every time or close to every time we get a developer that wants to do something like this, it's like met with a lot of resistance. And so how do we build a better strategy for the community, and knowing that we need it and that people want it, if they have it as an option to buy, I would prefer purchase versus rental. So anyway, I just thought I'd add on to that comment because I do think it's important. I don't want to miss it. And I feel like we need to come up with some kind of a deeper strategy that we don't currently have, because right now it's just, I don't know that it's, we're kind of nibbling around it, but we're not making any real progress, I don't think. So thank you.
Thanks.
Tagging on to that, is there a way that, because we are creating this new, that we could say that this is a potential for only for sale? I mean, RP2 could be for the rentals, but I mean, is that an option to say, like, because we want that missing middle so bad that we're creating our own thing, but it needs to be for sale things?
Yeah. It again kind of goes to the property owner rights to sell or to rent is the concern or the problem, and that's why most of your zoning laws are not going to typically enforce or protect municipality from saying this will be for rent only or this will be for sale only. And even if you did the enforcement side of that, you'd have no way to track or to do. That's the downfall. But again, homeowners' indentures covenants may have that in there too. And if there is a development agreement that comes through for any kind of financing or anything, we do have authority within our powers in that development agreement to put some restrictions that you're speaking of in there.
Chair, if I may add just a few things and maybe reach back to our legal counsel back there as well. But a zoning district cannot dictate rental or ownership at all. And any restriction that you put on there, again, you got to think about it that you're restricting that land and taking away somebody's property right, regardless of who the owner is. So there are case law out there, I believe, and there are areas where that has been tried and been stricken down and gets into a whole lot of challenging things. Now, if there is a development agreement, those are all time-bound. So having anything permanent is, in my opinion at this point, not feasible.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So then, I think we talked about that. So the last area is public hearing process. So, and this is where we're going to get into, this is all development types across the board. So it would be for any application that comes in the door where a public hearing is required in our code. So our current public hearing process, again, we require a zoning with a PDP with 2 public hearings at Planning Commission and at City Council. Revised preliminary development plans, even if a zoning change is not needed, if it's a substantial change, that does require also 2 public hearings. And every time you have that public hearing, that triggers the state statute requirements for timing and for noticing. With that also, like most all cities in the Midwest, especially in Missouri, we go above and beyond. So on the left-hand side is what state statute requires as bare bones minimum. It requires 1 public hearing. It also requires that notice in the paper 15 days prior and that testimony be taken by citizens at your public hearing. Now, state statute does not require if that public hearing is at Planning Commission or at City Council. Most municipalities will do Planning Commission because since that is that first meeting and that first time, and Planning Commission is also tasked with giving all the information to the City Council to make that recommendation. That's why most all cities are going to have that public hearing at Planning Commission. And so above and beyond that, in our UDO, we require 2 public hearings. We also have notices of the public hearing mailed to property owners within 300 feet, which state statute doesn't require. Neighborhood meeting is required at least 7 days in advance, and the site is posted. And even though we're not talking about changing those other notification requirements at all, I just thought it'd be interesting for you all to see how many additional steps we take to make sure the public is notified. So our recommendation is to consider going to just 1 public hearing for zonings and PDPs. And the reason why is it provides that additional streamlined option. It will shorten our time. That's a time savings and cost savings for developers. And state statute doesn't require the 2 public hearings. And in fact, there is case law in Moore versus City of Parkville back just 20 years ago, which confirmed that a city is not required to hold 2 public hearings. So how would this work? Because this could be a big change, right? So again, we would recommend the public hearing be at Planning Commission. Again, so that way the citizens are speaking and giving testimony at the early stages of the development proposal, not the last meetings. Planning Commission recommendations provided to City Council, same as now. Testimony is taken at Planning Commission, and that's all made part of the record and provided to City Council, same exact way as it is now. Staff can still make a presentation at the City Council, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, but that's the same now. You could get the same presentation if you'd like that from staff. And then questions can be asked of staff or the applicant at City Council, same as now. And the great thing too, though, is there is still a public comment portion of our agenda where the general public can come, and if they want to speak a second time or provide new information, whatever they'd like to do, they can still talk at public comment before the item would be up for discussion with you all. And so I put together a agenda for you, so I hope this kind of makes sense. But this is a real agenda that we have now for City Council. This was a couple months back, or a couple weeks or so back. So right now, public hearings happen, they're number 5. And so as you can see, we have our public hearing, and then we go to public comment afterwards. And so at the public hearing, we take testimony and the public can get up and speak in addition to staff making a presentation. If we only had 1 public hearing and it was a Planning Commission, you all would still see this project. It just moves over here to number 9 for first reading. Staff will still get up and do a presentation. You can still ask questions of staff and the applicant. The only difference is there's not back and forth and testimony from the public, but the public can speak and fill out the speaker, time cards and things, and still have 3 minutes to talk before the presentation by staff under number 6 here. So it actually would work out still very well because you're getting additional public input if you'd like to have it, or if the public has any, before that item comes up on the agenda. What it also does is, we recently had a presentation or a project before you all where it was like a single lot and it was a duplex that had to be rebuilt, and everyone was like, why did we have to come through all this? There are those times too where if there's no public concern, and if it's a really small, kind of that simple thing, then what we could have the presentation ready on the dais computer for you all. But if the council says, staff, is there any new testimony or do you need to present? We don't have to, if you or just want to go straight into questions or even straight into a vote. So it gives you that flexibility too. But again, the public can still speak for the same amount of time as they do now too, prior to that coming up on the agenda. You want me to stop? You want me to keep going? Or I can stop right now. Do you have questions?
I have some questions. You guys
Okay.
I do too, Will.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want me to? Okay. Well, I can stop here.
Right out of the gate, I'm like, absolutely not, because the people that want to speak in the public are our constituents. We're not at the Planning Commission meeting. And I would have a concern of spending 10 years on the Planning Commission, that we a lot of times have a public hearing. Maybe that developer takes into consideration that the planning commissioners didn't like this, and maybe that. I think that would be a larger process on them, because if they're going to agree to make those changes, it needs to go back to a public hearing that the public has a voice. So it's not leaving the planning commission. It's just going to circle around there until every one of those things are answered, to where maybe we could help the timeline and get it to a public hearing at City Council, to where if the developer didn't quite make all those changes that they were supposed to make, or what was discussed at planning, there's still an opportunity to open up the public hearing, allow those people to speak, and make sure what that developer said they were doing here happens here, and those folks are able to still speak. I understand the public comments, but you're having public comments and then you're going to a bill that we're going to have to stop, read, and try to go back to what they were talking about at the public comment section, to the bill that we're getting ready to read. I'm just putting my 2 cents on here that I don't think we do away with that process. I think it's very important that we have the public hearings both at the Planning Commission and at the City Council.
Sure. And just to clarify too, we would still be giving you a presentation. The only difference really is you don't have the advertising in the paper. We don't have to wait the additional timelines. We can get developers onto your agenda quicker, which sometimes too can help the public, because after Planning Commission, when you have that long delay to City Council, there's a lot of time, and when we get a lot of comment from residents too, especially on controversial ones of, well, when is this hearing? Why hasn't it happened yet? When are we going to get there? And so being able to expedite and get developers onto a quicker City Council agenda sometimes is very helpful for them too. But totally understand. And I thought this would just help to show that we could still get those comments in advance, but totally understand your point.
Still have a question?
I don't necessarily have a question, just kind of from what I've seen, I feel like it almost is taking away from our constituents' voices, and I'm not for doing anything that would potentially do that. So I don't really care for it, but thank you.
Do you have okay. I too would agree with that. I appreciate you saying this up, ladies, because it really puts it into perspective, the process and what it would look like. Because I'm thinking back when we have councilmen, we're doing first reading, we have to say, hold on, stop. Could a staff member come up and present? We're having to request that. So I want for something to slide through without us being a new process. I just think it provides a little bit less transparency. I want to, they need to have a voice. And I always prefer when they're able to, we speak about it, they can say what they want when it's fresh in our minds and we go, they said something we didn't think of. Can we address that? You know, we're having to write down their question, and it's just, I feel like it takes away from the smoothness of the process of the topic we're talking about. So I'm not a fan of changing anything about that. And I get that the developer might like that, but I don't want to lower our standards in the processes we have in place because I feel like they work and it creates more time for us to figure things out, listen to the community. And so, but no, thank you for setting it up like this because it really helped envision that. So,
yeah. I won't go through the timeline change then, unless you'd like me to. Just it saves just the 2 to 3 weeks. And then we did the research on the other cities. To a couple points from earlier, the other cities who do this, for instance, like Green Valley Independence, they only do a public hearing if there's new testimony or new information. And some of the others on here who they do a public hearing at City Council, but it's only for vacations and easements and dedications. It's not for their zoning hearings. But again, put this together for you just so you could see, and we even included the neighborhood meeting stuff. Just thought it was interesting information just to see how other cities around the area do it. So the only one change that, if you don't mind, I might still ask about then is we did put some red lines together for you because we had them because it really helped just kind of show what it would look like. But under the protest petitions, if the direction is not to change the public hearing, we wouldn't change that section in A. But we were talking about the protest petition filings. Right now, it says in our UDO, there's no end date. It says protest petitions can be filed prior to commencement of the meeting, basically, at the governing body. So someone could walk in the door 5 minutes before the meeting starts and drop off more protest petitions to us. Just on Saturday, we got 200 more for one project. That takes considerable time to check by staff, to get logged in, to put into the record. And so we were thinking this could be an opportunity area if we could just put a time frame on it. It not only helps developers have some understanding of what could happen, it helps residents have understanding, but then too, we wouldn't have to, and it hasn't happened here yet, knock on wood, but stop a meeting. Because if we did suddenly get a bunch as we walked in the door, we wouldn't be able to report to the city council. What if it did trip the, what was needed or did then change something? So other cities, on the Kansas side, state statute does require it be submitted no later than 14 days after planning commission. Missouri's not as clear. It just is very open-ended. The only other city, most of them say prior to final action, but those cities also do first and second reading the same night. But Independence does do a 48 hours prior to the final action. So if we did that, it would mean we just have to have it Sunday. So when we walk in the door Monday morning, at least we'd have the day to look at it. And so we were just recommending, for consistency with the other city in the area, maybe the opportunity just to put a time frame on it. So it's not a walk in the door and have them handed to us. So that way we can tell you if they're valid or not. But
So I guess what difference would this make? I mean, they're opposing something. What does that change, whether they walk in the door and whether you know a day or two in advance?
it doesn't change your vote, I believe, but it does let you know if we did meet the state statute requirement for protest petitions. And so we are still required to do that review and validate the petitions. Actually, it does change the vote, doesn't to supermajority. It does change the vote to supermajority. So if there was one, if we walked in the door and people handed us 10, we wouldn't be able to tell you if your vote needs to be a supermajority or if it just could be irregular. We might have to hold the meeting.
So you can come with us with facts of like, okay, we've looked at this, we've reviewed it,
That would give
meets
us
the
enough
requirements, and
time.
here's what your vote looks like now, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And also sometimes even the applicants are like, when will we know if we have if it's valid or not? And I'm like, 5 minutes before the hearing starts? And sometimes residents will even say, did you review all those yet? Did it make a difference? Well, I don't know, because we have to wait till we get to the meeting and someone could, hand us one when we walk in the door. So it provides more clarity for everybody as well, and hopefully better information to you all.
Okay.
Unless you'd like, that was just.
Councilmember Carlisle?
I have a question, sorry. Okay, so right now, do the protest positions don't have any bearing on planning, right? Except for they just know they're out
Not on
there.
planning commission. It doesn't change their vote at all. It does change. Has the impact on yours.
Okay, so I wouldn't have any problem saying that we have to have all protest petitions in 2 business days prior to the meeting, just so that you have the time to look them over, count them, put them in the system, and let us know, hey, they're here, and yeah, it does make a difference, or no, it doesn't. So I have no problem with doing that. The 48 hours, since we meet on Tuesdays, I don't want somebody trying to drop them in a Dropbox on Sunday. Let's just make it a 2 business days. That way they know they got to get in here, and the time you're open, not just sliding them in a slot for somebody to find on Monday morning. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Great, thank you. And so that was all of them. So we can, we just need direction from you all if you'd like us to proceed. I believe proceed with the protest petition filing update, if we're ready just to take that to planning commission. What you'd like to do with adding uses to the districts, and or also what you'd like us to do with the creation of an R2 district. I heard you were interested in learning more, but is that a forum back here, or
Yeah, I feel like that was
okay to
because
go?
R2, like, we're open to hearing more. I know there were some stipulations about which ones we'd like to see in it, but I think more information would you guys agree? Do you want more information on that? R2, yeah.
Would it be more information here, or would it be more information presented to the entire council, or is that what we need to decide? Okay.
Just let us know.
Well, will we be discussing conditions, and would we need to hash that out more if we're going to implement, if we want to maybe eventually implement the R2? Do we need to discuss that here?
You can discuss it wherever you're most comfortable. We're happy to bring forward to you any and all information that you need to make a comfortable decision with that. Or, like the process ones, I think the recommendation was everything was good except for the one little tweak thing on the densities, and to give options to planning commission, flush it out, and then bring back all the options when we circle back to city council. So it's whatever is.
Chair, if I may.
Me too, because it always gets sent back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, given kind of the conversation around the R2, it seemed like there was still a lot of questions about just I'll say the structural framework of what that would look like. And so my recommendation would be to, if we're going to continue that conversation at the committee level. Hash out that general outline, the bones of that, and then also that planning commission will have a big role in the details associated with that UDO amendment ultimately. But I think we need to provide a little bit more of a sandbox for them.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for that, Ryan. And I just wanted to say that with that R2, when you bring it back, could we also could you go ahead and structure it all out, like this is what it will look like, and then we can and put everything in there that you had in there, and then we can take stuff out, so that way we know everything that it could look like, and then we can remove the things we don't like. I think that works better than saying, well, we could do this, but we don't know what that's going to look like, because then you have to come back again.
The full picture.
Thank you.
And then you wanted to, I feel like R1, were we all in agreement on R1? We just want to leave it the same.
Did you want to, oh my gosh.
We wanted option C. No change.
That's for the R1 and the RP1.
Yes.
Were you interested in adding the triplex to the RP2, or just don't do anything with adding more uses at this time?
I mean,
just adding. Yeah.
It's in
I'm
RP2.
okay with that. Are you okay with that?
yeah.
I'm okay with that one, yeah. I think we all are on that one. But just don't touch our R1s.
No problem. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. That was great.
Absolutely. Thank you for the feedback and the help.
All right. Moving on to item D, 2025-7265, discussion special event permit process improvements. Ms. Albers.
Good evening. Tracy Albers, Development Services. Over the past several months, CEDC has reviewed a series of proposed ordinances focused on the World Cup Tournament and amending the allowances for certain types of special events. We've talked about parades, block parties, athletic events, firework displays, and a host of other items. During the process on the staff side, we've identified, I think, what I describe as pain points by applicants that are seeking to obtain special event permits. Depending upon the scope and the nature of the event, when it occurs, applicants have historically been required to navigate multiple application forms, coordination with several departments, managing timelines that may not necessarily be aligned with each other. And in aggregate, the fragmented process can sometimes lead to confusion, can lead to delays, and probably some frustration for event organizers. So recognizing the need to both simplify and modernize the special event permitting process, staff in police, fire, development services, administration, and even IT have worked on developing an online special event portal that's designed to intuitively guide applicants through the application process, through the review process. The portal that we're putting together features some intuitive prompts and helps applicants identify what permits, what attachments are required based on the details of the event that they're proposing to host. Behind the scenes, in the back of the house, the portal allows staff from multiple departments to review the applications, collaborate, communicate more efficiently, and track our progress in real time. So to that end, I'm going to turn things over now to Captain Murray, who's going to walk you through the portal as we're putting it together, talk a little bit more about next steps.
Good evening. Mike Murray, Captain with the Police Department. Just to kind of piggyback on that, the process was pretty disjointed. Depending on the permit that you were filling out, some applied just to the police department, some applied just to the fire department, there may be a public works permit, and there was really nothing on the backside to ensure everybody knew what everybody else was doing. To capitalize and just jump on the opportunity that the World Cup conversations have created, we thought it was a great opportunity just to create this new portal, if you will. Permits are located throughout ordinance, just in various different places. So we wanted to create kind of a conceptual portal that anybody who just wanted to do a permit would land on this page and then start selecting exactly what they're trying to do. Creates a user-friendly experience and that one-stop shop so people didn't have to look around for where they were going. This permit, it also ensured that the correct information was received. Our permits were old and fairly vague, so it always took city staff, myself, or someone from fire to reach out to the applicant and really ask the questions that probably should have been asked initially with the permit. So think of it this way, depending on the event type you would click there, if you clicked parade, it would take you to a section that lists out all the ordinance requiring about parades and ask questions such as starting point, end point, route, things that are particular to a parade. Believe it or not, what's the longest truck and float combination? So I know you can make the turn off Green onto 3rd, so we don't end up with issues that we've had before. Block party would be the same way, or our big ones, festivals, which really gets into a lot of various questions. The same thing happens when you start selecting some of those other areas. We wanted to ensure that there was timely staff notification. On the back side of this, as soon as this event application is submitted, the appropriate people in fire, police, public works will be notified immediately. Right now, there's kind of a clearinghouse in DRC where we meet where these special permits, some of them come through. Sometimes a parade permit doesn't because it's just housed just inside the police department. And we want to avoid is me approving a parade on a street that's got construction work on it and I don't know about it till the next day. So this ensures that everybody has an opportunity to get notification on a timely manner and really work through here. Let me see if I can show you just conceptually what we're trying to build. Is that when you go to the city, this is a test environment that we've created, that you've got all the applicant information, everything we would need traditional like we always get, but if they were to click parade, it comes down here and it just starts asking those parade relevant questions so that we get everything that we need. And you do that through whatever topic we would have, an athletic event, a 5K, we might want to know what your anticipated attendance, location, those types of things. Going down even further, if you're going to have mobile food trucks, what they are, have they had their inspections, those types of things that are important to, fire has to approve all those types of things. If you're going to have alcohol consumed, we'd like to know, do the licenses already there, what licenses you're operating on, what methods are you going to utilize to ensure that minors aren't consuming on property, those types of things. So we didn't want a 38-page permit, but we wanted the proper information that's captured. So this is what we're currently building with IT. It's a huge step in the right direction. One, just having a portal that there's only one place you have to go and then answer the appropriate questions. And two, having those notifications on the backside. We envision at some point the software platform, CityView, being something that this would be applied to so that everybody can make comments along the way and you don't just walk into a DRC meeting and here's a permit, you haven't had any time or opportunity to comment on it or consider it, and to make sure nothing drops through. So we're getting there. Timelines, I don't have a timeline for you. It's more conceptually getting built, but right now, again, having that one-stop portal on the front side and the staff notification on the back side puts us way ahead of where we were at. And eventually we'll get it into CityView and we'll get it really up and running. But we just wanted to capitalize on the opportunity with World Cup, that this was the time to do it. It's been discussed long enough. This was a great opportunity to just, let's push it all right here. So with that, just it was more a conceptual idea. We wanted to share what we're working out and what we're building, but if you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Yeah, I think this is great. Anything to streamline processes more. I think you guys are doing a great job. Do you guys have any questions or anything? All right, thank you so much for that. Appreciate the work you're putting into it. All right. Moving on to discussion E, 2025-7272, discussion of Carnival regulations. Mr. Elam.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I never There we go. Sorry, that took me a minute. All right. Well, hey, good evening, everybody. This conversation on carnival regulations is a bit of, I'll say, a continuation and a result of a lot of the work that we've been doing, just looking at our special events and as we've been analyzing different items for the World Cup. But this one is its own separate item because it is also something that we kind of look at annually. We have two major festivals that occur. I think everybody's very familiar with our Downtown Days and Oktoberfest and what those events mean to the community overall. And as events continue to grow and continue to change and evolve, after every one of those events, there's after action reports, there's discussions, there's what can be improved, what went well, all of those different types of conversations. And so with that, and coupled with the focus on the special events and the coordination and I'll say the critical thinking associated with a lot of these different events that's been occurring, this is a topic that came up as well. And it's listed here as carnival restrictions. And really what we're here to do is we're here to have dialogue. We're here to have dialogue and seek direction over any potential changes that the community would like to see, that this body would like to see, as it relates to being able to continue to have large-scale special events in a safe manner and a family-friendly manner as best that we can. We're going to discuss some challenges that we've seen, and then we're going to present some options to address those challenges, as well as a slight review over what some other communities have done to address some of these same challenges. But before I jump into that, I did want to reiterate that this is 100% a team approach. The whole time that we've been talking about these conversations, it's been police, fire, public works, development services, downtown Main Street, the chamber, and specifically I need to thank Captain Murray, Major Patterson, Assistant Chief Eden, Hector Soto, Shannon McGuire, Michael Park, Tracy Albers. A lot of people have been having a lot of conversations about these moving forward. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. And again, this is meant to be a conversation, so I'm going to provide some, just a brief presentation here. Feel free to interrupt the whole time. We also have representatives from downtown Main Street and the chamber here to help answer any questions and provide any feedback. And I do believe that some of them would like to speak on the topic to provide their perspective as well. And so anybody is also available as part of the team to answer any specific questions. So again, goal, we really want to establish clear carnival guidelines to promote positive, safe, family-friendly environment. That's kind of the things that we have been talking about. We really want to make sure that the events reflect who Lee Summit is as a community and what Lee Summit is. And we want to do that, reduce that risk through environmental design and regulation. So there's a lot of things that can be done just with the way that the environment is set up in order to help promote certain things. So that's the basis of where these are coming from. All right, so challenges. Challenges with these special events. Over time you get these larger crowd sizes. They require additional police officers, and even throughout the metro and area, as events get bigger, the response to those events changes and evolves. At times, particularly I'll say on the carnival side, we've experienced some disruptive behavior that reduces that safe and family-friendly atmosphere. A lot of that can be attributed to some of the space constraints itself, bottlenecking at different activity points, creating various challenges for response, and just large congregations of people. And anytime you have a large mass of people, you got to take certain precautions and certain restrictions. If we're trying to address the challenge of bottlenecking, we're trying to address the challenge of disruptive behavior. Behavior is a difficult one, to try to address directly. So thinking through the environmental aspects of that, what are those things that we can do? We asked ourselves, what are other cities doing? And specifically, we found Ocean City, Maryland, Wildwood, New Jersey, Naperville, Illinois, Overland Park, and Des Moines, Iowa, all within the last 5 years have made adjustments to similar things. And some of the things that they have put in there is curfews and supervision requirements, really aimed at attendees under 18. Ride restrictions focused on high-speed thrill rides, extreme rides, if you will, say height, spinning upside down, those rides that appeal to a different demographic than things. Reduction in the operating hours, requiring different types of ticketing things. Those are all things that we could put into place. Marketing adjustments, targeting families and young children. You know, a marketing adjustment isn't necessarily a thing that we as a city have control over or that we would control, but it is something that can be done to help with that. And then I know one thing that we have done, increased police presence to deter that disorderly conduct. So, again, options. What we've talked about is if we're trying to make it a family-friendly target, who we're trying to attract here, elimination of the thrill rides, and we could have definitions of what those thrill rides are, as well as examples, limiting the rides to smaller rides targeted towards younger children, maybe 12 and under, as well as, I'll say, midway activities on here. These are the games of chance that you see. Maybe you throw the ball at the milk jugs and try to win the stuffed animal. A lot of time with those, they tend to be congregating in a single area. You get lines, you get it difficult to walk through, and you got people kind of hanging out at there. One of the things that, talking through these proposals that we want to make sure that we do is we want to make sure that we can write this in a way that eliminates some of those conditions that we're trying to eliminate, but at the same time allow events and things that are targeted towards younger children. Maybe a business has got to spin the wheel or pick up a duck, get a candy prize, or small mini golf, and some of those things. So really it's about scale. I think when we boil everything down, it's how can we make sure that the scale is appropriate for the space and the crowd. Moving on. So that's option one. Option two is with the carnival, and specifically we just say no carnival. No carnival activities, no rides, just restriction, use the space in a different manner. Again, just an option, but that does eliminate the concern. Some additional regulations that I think everybody is in agreement on is having a set closing time without exception. Currently, and Captain Murray can speak a little bit more to this, but the closing time of the carnival is a bit dependent. If it's not too crowded, it can go a little bit later. It's kind of up to what the crowd is doing at the time, and that makes it a little bit difficult to fully manage. And then another thing that we know likely won't be received very well from carnival purveyors is really an administrative approval for all attractions and rides and games on there. So on top of the restrictions on trying to target that, we do feel it's important that there is a detailed list, a detailed site plan of what rides are going to be there, their operating specs, and that all of those, that there is essentially, I'll say veto, for lack of a better term, ability from public safety to say, no, we can't have this ride from that aspect, to ensure that that mix is a little bit more curated with the public safety in mind. So again, I said a brief conversation, or at least brief discussion. I will say that any combination of these items is available. There's been no, I'll say, decision set, other than our recommendation is that we do put some restrictions on these, and what we'd like is the direction on how far those restrictions should go. And with that, I will look to the back of the crowd to see if anybody from the staff team would like to add anything to the conversation.
I've spoken up already.
I think it really boils down to questions, if there's any questions. Yeah. All right. And so with that, I'll put this, maybe I will leave, which slide would you like to leave up? The challenges, or maybe what some comparator cities are utilizing? Yeah. Again, we would like a dialogue.
Yeah, but I don't think there's questions this time. I know you had mentioned that maybe downtown Main Street and the chamber would like to give a few thoughts or opinions. If you want to do that, feel free to come up now. And then that may trigger some more questions, so go ahead and feel free.
Matt Baird, President Lisa Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for having us. I do want to thank Officer Murray and his team. They did meet with Chamber in downtown Main Street and went over sort of what their recommendations that were presented to you guys tonight. And so I do want to thank them. We do have some concerns with some of these recommendations. The Chamber of Commerce has historically had a carnival part of their festival for many, many years, and in particular, and I do want to mention that we have brought Andrew Evans with us tonight. He has the carnival. He owns the carnival that comes to the Chamber's Oktoberfest festival. Just in case he may want to make some comments, but also answer questions you guys may have on carnivals in general. What I'd like to say is that there are, with regards to some of our concerns, it has to do with some of the financial piece to this. That's certainly a concern. It has been it's contributed to our financial growth. The Oktoberfest is the Chamber's largest revenue generator that's non-member based. So we do rely on those dollars. It's about 25% of our budget. And so when you can figure in what the carnival has provided financially to the Chamber in our festival, it's a big piece. We also know that not just the rides and paying to enjoy the rides, but most of those families coming down to enjoy the carnival are also participating in all of our tents that we provide, all of our brought tents. They're part of the festival, and we know that they're contributing those dollars into our downtown and into our businesses and into our festival. So that's also a big piece. And so I want to make sure that that's understandable. Clearly, when we look at the recommendations, the option 2 really concerns us. We don't want to see that. I think that, again, that carnival is a piece. However that may look, it certainly contributes to our festival. And I will say that, again, our dialogue with Captain Murray and Jim Eden, I felt we were on the same page with that thought. Do I buy into that the carnival is an attraction to problems? I have a hard time with that, considering, and I know that they've put up some cities that may have tried to address this issue, but just to the east of us is Blue Springs, Missouri, and they do a Fall Fun Fest, same carnival, and they don't have this problem. They don't have issues of kids coming down that we've seen. And with Oktoberfest, it's more of a Saturday evening issue and not a Friday issue. And what that tells me is it's also an issue of just boredom. Friday nights during the school year, there's football games, there's other things going on, activities going on, so there's that distraction. Saturday night, it's a little bit different, right? Different crowd that comes down, but later in the evening. So most of the recommendations that have been presented, we certainly support, and we've talked with Andrew and the Carnival crew, and they're fine with that as well. But we just wanted to make sure that you understood some of the financial impact that does have on us, also on a volunteer base. So for instance, it was recommended, well, you could have another event on the west side of the tracks, because that's where the carnival currently sits. Our concern with that is, with the carnival, it takes over 200 volunteers to do Oktoberfest. With the carnival, I don't have to provide any volunteers. It's one of those where at the end of the festival, we meet with Andrew and his team. They give us their check, and we say, hey, great job, and we walk away. And we didn't have to provide any staff to that or Carnival or volunteer support. So that's a big thing. Lastly, what I do want to say is I do feel like that we have gone above and beyond, and certainly with the police's support with regards to making this a safe festival. And I think you all have seen that. So from barricades to additional security that we have hired, just think about this. 3 years ago, the chamber was hiring John Knox Village, 3 guys from John Knox to be part of downtown. And that was 3 years ago. Now what do we have? We have Titan Security that's helping provide that security with our police force. So we have drones that are going on now. You've got they have a sort of a base operation that's right there near the tracks. So and the lighting. We've paid for additional generators with lighting to ensure that track area is lit up very bright. So we feel like we have done a lot to try to make sure that we have created a very safe festival, and I want to just make sure that that's also noted as we have this discussion. So again, I do appreciate you taking the time. We want ultimately a very safe festival as well. That's first and foremost, and Megan and I have talked about that. I just want to make sure that we have vetted everything before we just start taking things out that have been a key part of our festival.
Megan Gray with the Lee Summit Chamber. I have just a couple things to kind of piggyback what Matt said. We know that the carnival is an attraction, but I do not believe it's the problem. We shut the carnival lights down, totally shut it off. There was nothing going on that west side of the track. And we still had those teenagers hanging out there for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half. We couldn't get them to disperse, and it wasn't because they were staying in lines to ride the carnival rides or to play the games that they have. It was there simply because, Matt mentioned, something to do. They were bored at home, so they came down where there are people. So I don't feel like it's fair to blame the carnival entirely for the young adult problem that we're having right now. The other thing I wanted to ask state is, we are all for making changes, but I think we need additional information on what those changes are, because I want to make sure that we can still provide a carnival that's family friendly, that our carnival can still come and be a part of our festival where they can make money and we can make money, and we get to put a nice light on the city itself. So I know that we've talked about extreme rides, the thrill rides, high speed. I think we need a further explanation of what that means and see what we can provide to make that work, and maybe figure out if there are additional limitations or restrictions and what makes sense for us or things that we can allow. I know that there was conversation about allowing us to have the Ferris wheel, which we're grateful for in that. There was conversations on us having our slide that we have, which we're grateful for that. So we just need a better explanation of what we're looking at before we can fully support the recommendation of thrill rides, extreme rides, and changing what our carnival looks like.
Thank you. Ryan, can I ask you a question? So I know that we had a form or some papers that described exactly what we meant when we said no to this type of ride and only this type of height for this is. So did they not see that? Because I thought that was something that was shared between the entities that were involved in this.
Did you guys get that?
We didn't get full. We got this kind of broad language, so we didn't get exact, like, I know there was discussion of height or things like that.
I actually was not able to attend the meeting, so I don't know exactly what was shared. And I know there's been more than one conversation associated with that.
Okay.
But that, the examples and everything that we had kind of put together were just that. They weren't like an all-inclusive, all-exhaustive list at this point in time. But, some of those examples of, thrill rides, roller coasters, drop towers, Gravitron-style spinning rides, twister, scrambler, zipper, haunted house attractions with scare elements, high-speed attractions, anything that goes, over 10 miles an hour, rapid directional changes, centrifugal force, simulated motion effects, go-karts, high-speed spinning teacups or tilt-a-whirl rides, fast swing rides or motion simulators designed for older rides. Were some of the examples that we had. It's a little bit of, we can provide examples, what they are, but again, without knowing exactly what is proposed on there to bring it, it's a bit of a, if a new ride concept comes in, that's why we need the administrative approval kind of process associated with it. I think with a carnival, the general feeling on that is that a carnival has to be a mutually agreed upon item in order to occur. And Captain Murray might have a little bit more to talk about in some of those definitions. Those definitions are, I would say, a little bit flexible too. We have been tossing around what's the best way to codify that. Is it a 42-inch ride height and under unless you've got a companion to ride it, or is it a overall height limit? There's a lot that you can do with that may inadvertently kick out a ride that wasn't intended to be. So I know that's a really long-winded answer that is still kind of vague because it really depends on what are the options in whatever catalog that they're picking from to be for example. Kevin Murray, you got?
Mr. Elam's exactly correct. Depending on what definition you want to look at and what falls under a high-speed ride, a thrill ride. Missouri actually has statute language about rides designed for people, under this height versus this height. But I think more importantly, it's that cooperation and that conversation. At the meeting we talked about, one of the things we talked about is still allowing the Ferris wheel. It's become a focal point for both Downtown Days and Oktoberfest, and it just attracts a lot of people. But we codify that and say it can only be ridden by adults if they're with a child. So that's how you kind of process, so you control that, but we didn't want to take that away. So we're going to have to be flexible with our definitions. I think we all agree that anything that inverts, that goes upside down, that spins, that goes crazy, that's what we're trying to avoid. While we work really well together, I would disagree. I believe the carnival is my attraction, and those rides attract that bracket that we're trying to, that creates a lot of our issues. So we want to have that family-friendly environment, but at the same time, not attract the kids that are just getting dropped off, the 14, 15, 16, 17, that are just getting dropped off, they didn't drive, so they can't leave. So that's why we looked at a lot of different things, but we can't just make it black and white. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's correct, not only for the city, but for either one of these entities. We have to sit there and decide what works for the city. Some of the other issues on here, these comparators, a curfew doesn't work for us because it's open air. I know we've had a lot of conversations about the open air environment. People can come at us from 360 degrees, so trying to control an age or point of entry isn't practical. But I think when we get to ride descriptions, there's, it gets to how many G-forces. Well, I can't look at a ride and tell you that's 2.4 versus 2.2. That's why we want to see what rides are coming. It's kind of like one of those things, we'll know it when we see it, but we still want to have the Ferris wheel. We want to, aim at that demographic of 12 and under, but we still want to allow somebody who, I found ordinances that allows for individuals with mental health that may still be older than that 12, but we want them to be able to ride the ride, or we want them to be able, they may be over a height requirement, but if they're riding with a guardian or a parent, we still want that to be included. So I think there's going to have to be a lot of language that's written, that's codified, to get to where we want to get to. Again, we wanted to come up with two options that the city could support. Obviously, we could support no carnival. I don't think that's the direction we want to go. So it's really how do we set the boundaries for the carnival that we want to allow to be family friendly? Because again, I can tell you, working it for the last 30 years, I see our targeted population, our family friendly, turn around and walk away from that carnival at 8 o'clock at night and go, there's no way I'm taking my child into that. So yeah, there is a financial component that we've talked about on numerous occasions, and it's a consideration without a doubt. I think we're all trying to get to the same ending, but we have kind of maybe some different things motivating us how we get there. So I think collectively, we can do that through definitions that we may have to create on our own. But there is a lot of ordinance out there, state statute, that defines a thrill ride. So it's not, we're not making it up as we go. I think we just need to apply it appropriately.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of our discussion was, we had talked about just making it geared towards a lower age group, where that would be, less attractive to the teen the teenagers who do like to hang out, because I agree with you. I think it's the carnival's what draws them in. Whether or not it keeps them there, it's the attraction. Because I have been to places where there's just tents lined up and you're not really seeing any kids hanging around. But I did have a question that was brought up. So the extra security that was brought up from you guys, so who, or the overtime that I know police officers are having to put in that time too, is that the city paying for that? Or that's chamber is paying for all cost of security? So how is that?
So any overtime costs incurred by the city is paid by the city.
Okay.
Both downtown days, downtown Lee Summit and the chamber had agreed a couple years ago to start augmenting our staff with additional private security to help us on the carnival side for a higher visibility, increased presence. Without getting into the details, they're kind of specific because they can work a particular area, like an entry point almost, and control they're seeing everything where my officers have to be available to move throughout the event. So it helped us with a no backpack policy on that side, which was a concern. It's not 100%, again, because it's open air. But they've been a huge benefit the last few years at both events to have them down there. I think if you look at the social media posts, there's increased, police officer presence, because most people don't know if they're looking at a security officer or a police officer, and that's what we want. It's just a higher visibility, but not. We still have fights right in front of us. They don't care. There's oftentimes they don't care that we're there. So whether we're in uniform or not, it has an effect, but not the one we were hoping, not as much as we would hope for.
The chamber does pay for that additional Titan security.
Yeah, both entities pay for it. The
Okay.
additional security.
Did you guys have any questions before we move to downtown Main Street?
No, we'll get back to discussion.
Do you want to, or do you want to wait?
Well, so my question, I guess, is, so it's a tough thing, because I feel like we're kind of being forced to choose between what PD feels is best and what their expert opinion is on what they see and what the chamber and downtown want. So it is going to be a tough decision. We do get a ton of emails post downtown days and Oktoberfest of parents saying that, well, my kid couldn't go because they felt unsafe, and then tell us whatever thing happened. So, I mean, we are hearing from a lot of people that live in our city. But I guess my question is, if we do limit, I mean, obviously we're going to have to find compromise somewhere, because it can't continue how it's been going. But I also don't want to see it just a craft fair. So do we have carnivals that are willing to work with 12 and under? Like, if it's just like a 12 and under type of thing, is that going to be too limiting? Like, what does that look like for?
Donnie Rogers, downtown Lee Summit Main Street. We've been looking at this issue well before this. I mean, probably the last 6 months, trying to find a carnival company to hit that target of 12 and under. As of right now, with these restrictions, most likely we won't have a carnival at downtown days. We'll have to kind of adjust. And so I'm not saying that that's not something we won't do. I mean, this is our home too. We want it to be safe and inviting. And so there's a lot of different things we're looking at with downtown days specifically, maybe different closing times for different parts of the festival, have music go later on Green Street, but kind of separate that out. But for a carnival company, for something quality and safe for 12 and under, we've not found yet. Julie has contacted every carnival company she can find in the Midwest. And so, because I love a Ferris wheel, I could care less about the midway games and stuff like that. We were ready to see those goes ourselves on that. But yeah, so as of right now, we've not found that person. But yeah, so I mean, there's other changes with safety and stuff. I know we've talked about closing earlier. I will reiterate too on the marketing thing. We don't target teenagers. We notice Friday night, teens come down. Saturday night, there's a lot more. They target and market themselves. So really when we're targeting, I mean, music, everything we choose is geared towards an older demographic. The activities we plan are all geared towards families. And so it's kind of that consequence that we would rather not, but yeah.
Andrew's here with our carnival, and I do believe that 12 and under is a hard target to hit, but within reason, he is willing to work within our parameters here. He's also mentioned he'd be willing to help with Downtown Days Carnival if that would make a difference. If it works out scheduling-wise, then we have one carnival purveyor for both entities, and he knows the standards of our expectations. But they do have to make sense for him to bring out all of his employees and set up everything and store everything. He needs to make money as well. So I think within reason, we have an opportunity, and we've worked with Andrew for a very long time, and he is very great to work with. He meets our expectations normally, or always.
You got a question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So I would just, you keep saying within reason. What is within reason? Like, do you have a list of games that are within reason and a list of rides that are within reason?
I think we could absolutely pull one together with the help of Andrew. I keep saying within reason because I know that he's a very great carnival, and he's already mentioned that if we're not able to have the gamut of rides that he needs to be profitable, then he already has somewhere to go in Liberty. So I want to make sure that we can keep him here, but also make our expectations where we're making it a more family-friendly, safer venture. So I think just knowing what Andrew has to work with, what options we have, if we could work together to build those, then we could create a solid list of maybe we take away those high thrill rides. So he has a ride called the Ring of Fire. It goes all over the place. It is geared towards that higher thrill ride. Okay, we take that one away and we replace it with something that's more age appropriate, something that's going to hit that 10 to 11 target. I'm absolutely okay with that. What I don't want to see is us having to take away 7 rides and swapping them out with these little elephant rides that are geared towards like 5 and under. So it's really a matter of what rides are available that we can meet, and if we give and take a little bit, kind of like Captain Murray said, having the language where we review these things and we allow them, and it's not just a solid black and white line.
Okay, yeah. So could you put together something that would show us, like, these are the options we could give you within the conversation we've heard tonight, and I could still be profitable? Could you do something like that? And then just so because none of us up here are professional carnival goers or doers or seers, right? So we really need stuff to look at to say this is okay or this is not okay. You know, all of our within reason or game of chance, you know, all of these things are very vague. And so if you could give us something to look at, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will work on that.
So just hearing that, thank you for bringing up those points. I think we really need to, before we even put in the rides, we need to say what is our issue, what's our main issue, who is our main issue, causing the main issues, that why we're discussing this tonight, and narrow that crowd down and say, okay, then that's what we need to eliminate, because that's going to solve a lot of the problem. I mean, and if we do just go to elephant rides, we just go to elephant rides, because at the end of the day, it's about the safety of our city, not about anybody's pocketbooks. And if something happens out there, it's not going to be the chamber, it's not going to be the carnival person, it's going to be us that takes the heat for it. So I think we're taking it a little more serious, because every time something happens, we're like, it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And then, so I think we finally come to the point where we go, we have to do something. And so we see it's a potential issue, and safety is our #1 concern for our community. And unfortunately, that may come into your finances, and that's not our goal by any means. But what's to say if we're offering more geared towards, say, 10 and under, how do you know that's going to affect your profit? Because there's a lot of 10 and younger who aren't even coming because of the older crowd that prevents them from, I don't bring my family down there. I'm going to be honest, I don't. There's too much going on. I go, it's not a safe environment. I'm just being very blunt. But if we geared it more towards families, I'm going to be paying more money because I don't pay for them to ride any of the rides. I would be more inept to pay for that, which is money that you're not getting. And I think a lot of other families would feel that way because it has a more family-friendly environment, which is listed in these slides. Mm-hmm. So either that's what we want or we don't. So we pinpoint the crowd, and we have to fix the problem. And it can't be money-based. It just can't, because our community's safety is more important than money. It just is.
Well, again, I appreciate Captain Murray and his team coming up with some guidelines for us to go off of. Councilmember Hodges, I think that safety certainly is one of our main concerns, and we've always thought that through. But we also know that the carnival, at a however size we want to look at it, is for families, right? Families do come out and they participate in those rides, and if it's 10 and under, we will try to make that work, and we will manage that as best we can. Again, I don't want to think of it as a financial aspect, but we could go into how the Chamber of Commerce helps produce and helps make this run, helps drive economic development for this community. So what I'm saying is some of those dollars do go into that, right? It benefits all of the community in general. We have great community partners. So I don't want to, again, go down that path of trying to focus on that. But again, I understand what you're saying. I understand what your concerns are. We are trying to make that work, and I think we will. And I think that it's been great that we've got someone who's going to look at at the rides and figure out a way to make this all work. That we've got just so that everybody is sort of, can agree with what we've put together. I just don't think it's as, to you, I think it's black and white, and I don't think it is. That's my thing. From what I'm hearing from you, it's a black and white issue, and I don't think it is. I think we need to.
Can you describe, like, what is not black and white to you?
What I'm saying is, black and white is, it's either this or that. And you're saying it's safety, right? Safety is,
right, but what's up for interpretation in your opinion? Just because if it's not the crowd that we're kind of thinking, the teens, kind of like officers saying, then what is it in your perspective?
The issue, you mean? Or that,
Mm-hmm.
It's kids that are the congregation.
It's not them riding the rides.
Right.
And you don't think the carnival's drawing them in?
I think that they will come down and listen to a stage where there's lights. I think they'll come down, look at the Germantown that we have. I think that because there is a festival happening, they know there are people there and there are activities going on, I think they will come down. And I think that the carnival is an easy target to blame because it's flashy and it's showy and it looks exciting. But when it comes down to it, they're not buying tickets there. They're not riding the rides. They are congregating outside of it. So if we need to do something, I truly think we need to figure out how to block that portion of the road so they can't congregate. Whether I rent fencing, that's like construction style fencing, and I run it through Owens Lumber's yard up to the train track and out through the park up there up to the train track. So you have to have a gated spot to walk through that way, and we fill it with nothing other than air and officers, or we put more lighting in there. I think those are options that should be considered as well, because it's not the carnival. It's the kids that are coming down. It's the 13-year-olds, the 14-year-olds that are causing us to try and rewrite this festival.
So let me ask you, you say if they're not buying tickets or riding the rides, then how is it profitable for you guys?
Because leading up to that day, it's profitable, like all day long. Friday night is very profitable for us because we don't have the teenagers coming down there, so they ride rides all night long. So we have the families down there. It's the teenagers that are congregating right there that are scaring off the families. But if you start changing different things, saying, we have to go to 12 and under, well, those 15-year-olds that are coming down with their families riding that Ring of Fire, which has a line all day long, that's making us money from 10 a.m. to 8 o'clock. But now we lose that 10 a.m. to 8 o'clock because of 1 hour of our festival.
Okay. Do you guys have any other questions?
A couple things.
I actually do have some questions, but you can go first.
Okay. So are you guys, Matt, in some of these comparator cities we're already labeled the no fun police based on our decision we made earlier for the safety of our community and not selling alcohol all night long. So that's already on social media. Mm-hmm. So I know tonight this is going to be all over social media as well. So I think it's going to be tough to get a straight decision out of us tonight based on what happened earlier tonight. Councilmember Pryor said earlier, I got blasted from my constituents. And I was early into my council stage there of how terrible it was. I get it. There's something going on. Kids are going to come. I do agree. Whether there's a ride or no ride, I think you're still going to get kids. Thanks for the walk-up music, man. But I think it's very important that we see what this looks like from, hey, if we're gearing this to kids 12 and under, what do those rides look like? What does it look like in a reduction of hours? Right. How does this affect everybody? You know, I think what you brought up about the fencing, we talked about, I think, when we had a conversation. How do we jockey this carnival around to where we can contain it, to where the people going in to ride the rides, hey, maybe you're accompanied by an adult to go in there. Obviously, we're limited on space. I think there's a lot of things that we can do. But I think for the sake of conversation and what we've been blasted on already from our decisions tonight, this is about the safety of the community. And I understand you guys feel that same way, and we understand how your organization, downtown organization, operates. But I think we need to take a step back, Ryan, and understand what are these cost impacts? What happens if we have the administrative plan of like, hey, propose us your rides. This is the top tier, guys. This is what we can do and make the most. Hey, we feel like this, working with the groups that you're working with, if we take this out, maybe if we come up with some ideas of some fencing or to be able to control who's going in and out of this area and say, hey, this is a pass-through area for folks going to the carnival. Move on. I know it puts a lot more work on your guys' plate for monitoring those things or the Titan security. I think we could get to an impasse here. I think tonight's going to be really difficult after what has happened earlier tonight. We don't want to be the no fun police as it is on social media tonight. So I think we have to come to some good consensus of what we want to do. I think we've heard as a council, it's not if, it's when something bad's going to happen. And I think we are taking that very, very serious coming from our police department. So I think we need to understand, what do these packages look like? How does it affect you? How does it affect Mr. Rogers? I like saying that, Mr. Rogers. How does it affect him? What can we do to come together as a collaborative group and make it all work and make it as safe as possible? Because that's what it's all about, is the safety. We could all care less about the money. It's about the safety. So that's all I have. Thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry.
What I'm curious about is I like to look at the data and the facts and understand, like, what's the real problem here? We have a lot of anecdotal, emotional input, and I get it. It's real. But I don't think turning away from teenagers is the answer, because they're going to come regardless. If you have a carnival that has rides for them or not, they're still going to be there. They're going to cause problems. They're able to be anywhere in this community, and they will be. So if we're not going to provide opportunities to entertain them, then they're going to get into trouble. And so I think we need to understand the root of the problem, kind of where you were going a minute ago with this, is, how many events did we have this year? How many did we have last year? I mean, I don't know, and maybe you guys know that in the committee and the conversations that have been happening, but I feel like there's some missing data to really make some educated decisions. I also like the fact about, are there things that could be done? Yes, I think there's definitely, heightened awareness around opportunities, and so I'm curious about, how to solve for some of these problems that we're having, because I don't think anybody wants to have in any festival, bad behavior from teenagers, right? But we can't turn away from them. They're in our community, and how do we deal with that? We need to have solutions that, is that show of force? Is that fencing? Is that, what is it? But taking away a carnival is not going to solve the problem, and it'll probably actually make it worse. And I understand teenagers these days have more, I guess, nerve to do things that maybe they did in my day. I mean, I used to run around carnivals all the time. I hate to see parts of the carnival parsed away. You know, I think that there's a place for the thrill rides. I'm curious from the carnival guy, is there a way to separate? Because I do think like younger families, adult, you know, under 10, 12 years, like that's a different kind of demographic at a carnival than the older rides. And, you know, I understand you may be saying the community, we may not want this here or whatever. Are we saying, no, we're not going to be open for business in Lee Summit for this kind of business? We're going to create another problem. But I feel like we need more data and information. And so I agree with where you guys are headed with all that. I think that's a good way to approach it. You know, I think we all want to have a safe community. I'm not sure how unsafe it is. So, you know, I'm not always at the table, and that's fine, but I feel like having more data around that would be helpful in making any kind of decision before we start restricting carnivals in the community and turning away from our teenagers. So, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you guys for taking the time to come and listen. Did you have any other points to make?
I can just, I can add to your point, sir. I've got all the data you could ever want. I know how many calls for service we had at every event. I know how many guns we recovered at every event. I know how many assaults were occurred at every, so I have it all. So we can certainly get that information to you.
I think that would be helpful.
What's hard to capture, though, is a call for service means we're dispatched someplace. But dozens upon dozens of times, my officers are breaking up fights. That doesn't generate anything. So that we know it's occurring. That's different than we need officers at. That's a dispatched call for service. I can track that. The 10 fights they broke up at the railroad tracks that they just pushed away and said, keep on moving, that's not captured in data. So we know there's a missing piece. But I can give you that we worked 91 shifts for Oktoberfest to the tune of 489 hours at this cost and this many calls for service. So I can get you all the data you want. So if I just get that to Mr. Elam, I guess, and he can give that to you, but I just want to know exactly what you want to capture.
Yeah.
Because some of it,
helpful.
some of it is, well, I'll have to redact some of the information, but we can certainly get that to you.
Okay. I think we would really appreciate that. It just helps us put it into perspective of the reality of the situation.
Okay.
And go ahead.
And as far as that data goes, like from the police department or the fire department or whomever, if you want to, I'm not saying you have to give us the information exactly as you have it. I know much of it has to be redacted, but if you could just, you know, give us a summary.
Sure.
This is in the last year at these events, these are the numbers of the things that happened. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Would you be open to hearing another comment? I know I wasn't
Sure.
asked a
Yeah,
direct
go ahead.
question,
Yeah.
but I wanted
wasn't sure
to
if Donnie's
take-
comment was
Yes.
enough, but yeah, absolutely. Feel free.
I wanted
Feel
to
free.
take this opportunity. Julie Cook, I'm the Events and Promotions Director for Downtown Lee Summit Main Street. I work with Donnie Rogers. And I wanted to take this opportunity to address this body and thank you for your time and consideration for this matter. And also to reiterate my appreciation for Captain Murray, Assistant Chief Eden, and everyone on city staff who has spent their time to look into this issue. So we thank you, and we want to continue to work with both city council and city staff. And I wanted to also, on the point of data points that you're requesting some more information, I think that's a really valid request. And while the police department and fire department can provide data points on calls for service and some of those additional costs, I think it's also valid to understand the benefits too, because I think the question before you is really to evaluate, you know, what value city council places on these special events for our community. And in order to do that, I think it's important to understand the benefits as well as the costs. And I want to speak to that a little bit further. And we know that downtown days and Oktoberfest bring thousands of people. In fact, we know 80,000 people come to downtown days alone. The first weekend in June, that's the largest attraction for downtown Lee Summit. second is Oktoberfest. So we know, we have the data to show that this is a very well-attended tourism event. Both of these events are. It really does put Lee Summit on the map. We know that 40% of attendees are from Lee Summit and 60% are from the larger KC Metro for both of those events. And I think as we consider the value that that brings for our community, I mean, everyone has to make their determination on how important it is to have those types of tourism events. And that's for you to evaluate. I think the proposal before you with regards to restricting carnival rides, hours of operation, midway games, things of that nature, I think it's fair to say we don't yet know the impact that could have on attendance at the event overall. We don't know the impact that could have on the overall safety or the environment, the calls for service. We don't yet know if the demographic that we would like to discourage from being at the event causing problems, we don't know how that's going to be affected. And we don't know the impact fully on fundraising. So a lot of that uncertainty is going to cause stress for people like myself who are planners. And I say that because I think it's just important to be honest about that. There's no clear path forward here to guarantee that this will be perfect. And every year, I've been in this role for 10 years, and Assistant Chief Eden said something to me this year that has stuck with me that I want to pass on, which is we don't get to perfection, but we get better every year. And even if we don't land on a proposal that's perfect, I think adding some more concrete data for you to consider. I like your council member, Carlisle, you know, your suggestion and your directive to be more concrete with the examples, not be so vague. I agree with that. But knowing that we're not going to get to perfection, but we are striving to do the best. I know that our community, our police and fire have given everything they can to this event. They've staffed it to the fullest extent possible. And I want to say we are doing that as well. Our nonprofit organization is giving everything we can. Our time, our resources, our volunteer base, everyone is giving as much as they possibly can. There's no room to do more. And by considering these changes, what our goal is to have an event or a community of events that our council and our city will support wholeheartedly and will be proud of. And we want you to consider what that looks like, because we won't be successful if we do not have the support of this body, and we won't be successful if we don't have the support of the police force and fire and our city staff. And I want to thank you for your time and consideration. And I know I wasn't asked a direct question, but I did want to speak to this group, and I want to tell you that I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
That was great.
thanks.
I appreciate that. Okay. Mr. Elam, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Ryan, I'll be quick. I just wanted to say thank you for coming up and speaking to us. And I don't think anybody up here or anybody in the room really expects perfection. We know that's not attainable. We want open dialogue. We want to be involved in the decisions that are being made, because ultimately, if and when something goes wrong, that's on us for allowing it to still happen. So that's why we want an open dialogue around the events to make sure that everybody's in agreement. Police, fire, city staff, and your organizations are all in agreement with what's going to happen and the plan going forward. And then when that's finished, we can look at what happened, what was good, what was bad, what do we need to move forward. That's what we're asking for. Just allow us to be in the conversation in the planning conversation and help make these decisions that ultimately, when they go wrong, fall on us. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Elam.
Okay, so to kind of summarize, at least where I think we're at, and please correct me where I'm wrong and give me the direction on what we want to see next. So we need to have individual dialogue with the carnival provider to see what could be done. I think the goal, at least that I'm hearing from the committee and the community overall, is how do we make the carnival as safe as it can be? And we want it targeted to family friendly. And right now, the way that we're defining that is, say, 12 and under. You know, regardless of whether or not we can guarantee at this point that that'll have an impact on the congregation of teens, we can't. That's the charge that we're going to take a look at to see if it's even feasible, right? So that's one option. I think maybe another option that I'm hearing is, okay, if you kept it the same, if you will, that's not really an option. I heard that keeping it the same and doing nothing is not an option. I'm looking for consensus across the board here. I heard some data requests on there, and again, we'll work with PD, and I think we'll come back with that data, what needs to be redacted and things like that overall. The one thing that I know is a bit of a pressure, if you will, is the timing of that, because I know they're planning downtown days right now and everything, but it seems pretty clear to me that the desire is for the city staff and the city council to be a lot more involved with that carnival piece, specifically with the layout on that. So I think that that's going to take a meeting or two, possibly with this body, to get everybody comfortable. At this point, I don't think that we have enough information, if you will, to bring forward ordinance language, assuming that we get good cooperation from our partners, which I have no doubt that we will have good cooperation with the partners to work things through. Nor do I think that we want to bring forward an ordinance that is going to overstep what really the goal is. If the goal is collaboration, so I think we need to work through and see what those plans could be, and then bring that back to have that conversation to see if we're hitting a sweet spot or not. And then we're going to have to keep analyzing this and keep iterating throughout.
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
Yeah.
You
Did
guys
I
agree?
miss anything?
I think sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I think it's important that we understand, we have two awesome organizations sitting here, and I think it's very important that we understand, yes, there's some financial balance that's going on with this, and I think we're all in agreement that we're not going to let the financial balance overcome our safety. I would rather have a conversation about adding more to our agreements and making the organizations more stable than something tragic happening at one of these events. But I think for me, I would like to understand and all of the efforts going on of where the carnival line has to be drawn for this dollars and cents that need to happen. That makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Does that sound good?
All right, that sounds good.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving on to Roundtable. Does anybody have anything? Mr. Trafton, nothing for Roundtable? Yeah.
We have one more comment from our carnival.
No.
Talk about kind of that.
Can we not?
limit and the gap.
Okay, is that something that maybe you guys can work with them and dialogue and then bring that a part of the that's more info that we need in a presentation, but we would love to hear it. If you guys could hash it out and then bring it in presentation, we would love that. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Elam, do you have any roundtable?
No.
Wonderful. Okay. This meeting is adjourned at 6:48 p.m.